around here, I'll just do that. Again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you guys. There's a gifting goal. There's a subscriber goal. Please consider joining our team with our heart above. We have a lot of things to cover off on. I do want to make a couple of public service announcements. You might notice the sunflower graphic that has been on every one of our backgrounds. That is the Sunflower Project. It's been coordinated and organized by a friend of ours, Tom at Dagger Custom Apparel. It goes money from the sale of T-shirts, all the sunflower shirts. They're really beautiful shirts, high quality. $10 from every shirt sold goes directly to the largest Ukrainian orphanage. So we know that we have to do more in preservation of the world because the deep state is certainly not going to help. So if you'd like to find, or if you're always looking for something to do, or a cause to participate in, that's a great way to do it. Also, please consider joining our Discord. Lots of action. There's a bit of a buzz. What's going on here? I'm sorry, you guys. My apologies. So much for the new tech. Well, hopefully it'll get better. I don't know what's going on. My apologies. If it gets really, really bad, I'll just start again. Sorry about that. Still there? Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Trying new tech and it didn't seem to be working out, but hopefully it'll get better. You hear buzz, Felice? Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on, but some people hear it, some people don't. I'm going to invite Felice up to join us, and then we'll start our show, and hopefully I can work on it. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better. Yes, and it's louder now. Hi.
Yeah, I thought that was my mic. I have been trying to fix my own audio mixer. That's what I thought that was me for like the last 5 minutes. I was like, is this in my ears? Like, is it my audio mixer? Yeah, it's getting
louder.
I mean, it's loud in I think it depends, right? Like, and everyone, I get it. Some people hear it, some people don't. I do hear it. So, yeah, okay. That's fine if you can't hear anything, right?
I can hear it a little bit, but not that bad. Yeah, so I literally just got a new sound mixer.
Yeah.
I test drove it last night. It seemed to work fine. I don't know what's going on. Let me close this. See if that helps at all. No. I don't know. If it gets really, really bad, I can we start again. Why don't we just do that? I'll swap out. Let's come right back.
No, it's not about... Oh, yeah, let's just try that. I think that's a good idea. Okay.
I'll start again, guys. We'll come right back, please. There's them, right? Meanwhile, they look off. In the corner. And there's the man behind the curtain. Good morning.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, now I can't hear you, Fax. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Yeah, can you guys hear me speaking? Can you let me know if you guys can hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, you guys can hear me. I just want to make sure. I can't hear Fax either. Yeah, I cannot hear Fax, but he might have something unplugged. He probably has something unplugged. Audio mixers can be a little confusing when you first start using them.
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes?
Okay, that sounds, yeah, and I don't hear the button.
Okay,
anymore.
thankfully
So
I
think
didn't
we're
get rid of the
good.
old mixer that I bought.
Oh, can you guys not get it together?
You guys good? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So we may not have some effects today, but hopefully we can figure it out. Anyway, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Top of the morning. I love being up early and getting to talk about stuff. This is great.
Yeah, you do get up early. I mean, I thought I got up early, but you get up really, really early. Everybody, please, this is going to be kind of a thing. Felice and I have been talking about this for a while, and I'm so honored that she's decided to spend some time with us. So she and I are co-hosting together, whether it be here or on her platform, or once I get some better tech, obviously, because you guys know me in technology. I'm totally so advanced. That we can do the TikTok live studio, so that we can have some more features and things like that. But this is going to kind of be our regular thing, hopefully on Mondays, if you'll still want to do this, because I think it's great. I think I'm really, really happy that you're here. There's a gifting goal today, friends. There's a subscribers goal. Please consider Felice's pay-ups above her head. Mine are in my bio. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring, and today we're going to unpack the deep state, because this entire thing is a big distraction. Felice and I have been talking about doing this live for a while. All these things that MAGA, cabinet picks and all these sort of social issue talking points, like bathroom issues and like, the poisoning the blood, all distractions, all distractions as we march towards a corporate oligarchy takeover.
I could not agree more. Sorry, I'll talk louder, guys. Sometimes I just mumble in the morning. I'll get there. I'll speak louder, I promise, as we go on. And yeah, this is my Cash App and Venmo. And if you want to put a message in, I'll read it aloud. Like if there's questions about what we're talking about, or just something funny you want to say, whatever the case, if you want something said or you have a question for us, just definitely you can put it in the Cash App or Venmo, and I'll monitor that, and then I will read it aloud. Okay.
Same here. I appreciate you guys. In fact, on that topic, I'd like to thank Doug for his kind contribution. Doug said, "I don't know how you do it." Sometimes, Doug, I don't know how I do it, but thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. I guess we should probably address the President Biden pardoning Hunter. What I really find fascinating, though, is I'm not surprised that it happened, quite frankly. But Dinesh D'Souza came out on X over the yesterday, early this morning.
God,
Trump
pardon number 850, pay for pardon 853, Dinesh D'Souza.
Exactly, and then what's his name? Charles Kushner. This is the one that really gets me.
Don't even get me started on that. We can talk. Do you want to start talking about him? Because
I just want to kind of go through this real quick. Just as a reminder to people that in 2005, Charles Kushner was convicted of illegal campaign contributions, tax evasion, and witness tampering after hiring a prostitute to seduce his brother-in-law, arranging to record a schmexual encounter between the two, and then sending the tape to his sister. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your new ambassador to France.
You guys, and just to give you an idea about ambassadors to France, like Benjamin Franklin was an ambassador to France. And don't get me wrong, we could go into who Benjamin Franklin, SEX cults and all sorts of weird things, but whatever. I'm just saying, like,
slave
that
owner,
is ambassador to France is like a traditionally revered role. Jared Kushner, $2 billion from the Saudis. Jared Kushner, carry water for Donald Trump. You become the Middle East envoy. Jared Kushner, his daddy, who filmed and sent it to his own sister to tamper with his brother-in-law testifying against him in a trial. Right? This man, Trump didn't even pardon him for free. It's his son-in-law's father. He had to pay for the pardon. They tracked the money back to Charles Kushner. This was a pay for pardon. So again, and I think that's the point, right? Where do you connect the line of logic? I mean, it's about what is our ethical standards? Trump pardoned his family member, right?
Sure.
Trump pardoned his family member, as did Bill Clinton. I don't think that's a lesser remembered one. Bill Clinton also pardoned his family member. So and actually, let me see if I wanted to, because I was listening last night on MSNBC, and I was like, I should play this clip. I'm going to play it on the People's Receipts later on my show. But let me just, since we're talking about it, because I think this is what people are missing with why and I think Biden briefly said it in a statement. But the point is that Hunter Biden is a first-time offender, right? Mm-hmm. Who had a deal negotiated with the government that was then went back on, right? Which there's just been precedent set in court, and I can't remember the case because I was thinking about this, but this is just occurring to me this morning in real time. There's been legal precedent set where the federal government is saying, hey, if you make a deal with someone, you need to honor it. You can't go back on it, right? So this is a first-time offender who had a deal that collapsed under political pressure, right? And he never should. He's facing up to 25 years in jail, which he technically shouldn't be facing, right? That's first-time offenders get deference, especially addicts.
And let's be real. The information that he put on the FFS form, right? The question is very vague. Have you ever been under the influence of, or something to that effect? So that would mean anybody who's ever at any point in their life used narcotics and or an illegal substance that have filled out that form and it also did not check that box, then you've committed the same crime that he did. Sure, you can turn it into whataboutism, but for Dinesh D'Souza, the guy behind 2,000 Mules, and his crimes were, he was convicted, took a plea deal. His crimes were campaign finance fraud. He tried to manipulate other people to donate so he could fall underneath the regulation of how much an individual can donate to a campaign. And he's the one that's talking about above the law. I mean, give me a break. Again, this is the distraction. This is the distraction. People don't even know who Dinesh D'Souza is, but because he's now connected to Trump, they see this tweet and said, oh yeah, Dinesh D'Souza gets, who's Dinesh D'Souza? So Joe Biden can just pardon Hunter? This is the deep state. This is a distraction that we're going to be talking about all morning. It's nuts. Yeah,
that's all they'll talk about today too, is that Joe Biden did something wrong. And I'll say this, because I want to I'll play devil's advocate on it.
Hang on one second. Why not 8669? Actually, I have. So you were wrong about that, but nice try.
Well, what did he say? What did it?
He just said that I've never filled out. He said that I've never filled out a firearms form, and I have, as a matter of fact, because I'm a firearms owner.
Okay, yeah. They always say that. They always assume no liberals have ever touched a firearm. It's an interesting thing. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so it's Dinesh D'Souza, just to give you guys some more crap, just outside of the Trump pardon shadiness that, pay for pardon situation with Dinesh D'Souza. This is the man through, I believe it's Salem Media, right? Who worked with, has anyone ever heard of True the Vote?
True the Vote,
This is
exactly.
The 2020 in Georgia, 2,000 mules, 8,000 mules, this was Dinesh D'Souza. Yeah. Dinesh D'Souza just had to admit in federal court that they have no evidence, right, about any of that. That True the Vote never had evidence, that Salem Media never had evidence, that it was all a complete lie. That is Dinesh D'Souza. That to avoid culpability and paying a load of money to a bunch of people who they framed in that movie, said, "Oh, I thought they had the evidence. We never had any evidence." This man is a pathological liar. So just throwing that out there.
Right, and that's the hypocrisy of him of all people complaining about a presidential pardon when he got
I remember now. Sorry.
Go for it. What you got?
I was going to say, I just remembered what I was going to play devil's advocate. I think it's natural, and we can all think this, because I'm thinking this. I'm a private citizen, right? Like, who has never really had any money. Like, I worked in the tech industry for a while, and I started making some money. Now I have no money, right? So I think it's also natural to say, man, it must be nice to be a Nepo baby, right?
It's true.
It must be nice to have your dad be able to forgive you of all your crimes. Like many Americans, think about how many Black Americans are convicted of like petty drug offenses and have spent 20 years in jail. So if you're also thinking, hey, is this fair? It's both things can be true. You could feel like, hey, I never get deference. I know people who went to jail for 10 years for the devil's lettuce and sat there. Yeah, all of that is real, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is also real that was a politically motivated prosecution, and in circumstances of sentence guidance, he would not serve any time, right? Like he would have gotten what deterrence, right? Which the Republicans vote against, right?
Correct.
And let me just give you an example of that. Byron Donalds.
Exactly.
Little known fact about Byron Donalds, because he lies about it. He lies about it, right? Byron Donalds was created by Rick Scott, the richest congressman in Congress, right? The senator
fraud,
from Florida.
Rick Scott.
Welfare, Medicare fraud, largest Medicare fraud in Texas history. Rick Scott, that's where he got his money, right? He created Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds was a felon. Byron Donalds committed bank fraud. He was involved in a scheme to defraud a bank. Also had, like I'm talking about, petty devil's lettuce charges. Byron Donalds not only benefited from first-time offender deterrence programs, and so what got away from the devil's lettuce charge, right? And then also was helped by Rick Scott to get his record expunged, and then voted against first-time offender deterrence programs, right? Like the one Kamala Harris created. Is it like the First Step program or something?
Yep.
So these people are complete hypocrites, something that Byron Donalds was a beneficiary of, right?
Fresh Start. I think it's
Hunter Biden, Fresh Start, something like that. And also Hunter Biden would qualify for, especially in the case of addiction.
Correct.
Right? If you're an addict, right, and you've committed, some things happen, and it's your first time offense, normally you can go to rehab, you can do community service, you can go to classes. That is what happens.
That's right.
That's the reality.
Nisha Brooke in the chat, you asked the question, can Biden pardon more than one person? Yes. I mean, that is one power that the president has. I mean, it's clemency, it's pardons, there's a review, but ultimately, the president in the office of the presidency can decide. So if you think about the list, I forget the number of pardons that Trump issued out, especially many, many on the last day, but
never before seen.
Exactly. Think about the people that he pardoned, and there was a big controversy about this. Matt Gaetz basically trying to sell pardons to people, and Roger Stone got all up in his shit because he didn't get one.
And Rudy,
and there was these preemptive.
Roger Stone got a pardon. Roger Stone got a pardon.
Right. So
eventually.
In the movie A Storm Foretold, there was this scene where Matt Gaetz was in a conversation that they thought was not caught on a hot mic about these preemptive pardons. So Matt Gaetz asking for preemptive pardons and others. Now, why do you think Matt Gaetz would have asked for a preemptive pardon? Interesting.
Yeah, Matt Gaetz was caught saying this, and he wasn't asking for, because he used the opportunity of their involvement in J6, right? But what Matt Gaetz was asking for was a blanket pardon for decades of time.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't get it, but it was about the S traffic. I mean, that's what Kevin McCarthy says.
Correct.
Right? It was about the child. He was trying to get cover for the child S trafficking. So, I mean, do I like pay for pardon schemes like the one Trump ran and people have talked about? No, I do not.
No, of course not.
I also think many people, especially minorities, disproportionately sit in jail for petty crimes that they should not necessarily be in jail for and should have, deference for. But I mean, this is America. That's the two-tier justice system.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely hypocritical for Fox News to say what they're saying.
Correct. I mean, and that's the reality. This is, again, this points to the distraction, right? So as we look at the cabinet being comprised of billionaires, I don't know, Felice, last time I checked, I don't think billionaires are necessarily looking out for the working man and woman, the working poor, the middle class. So remember, there was that audio captured again on a hot mic when Trump had his donors down to Mar-a-Lago saying, I'm going to cut your taxes again. And that is a nod to the fact that he literally is going to lower corporate tax rates down to 15%. You're going to get screwed. I was in a live last night with, I think it was RJ, after you and I did our little experiment. This gentleman literally saying,
I love RJ.
I know, who doesn't? RJ, if you're out there, buddy, we all love you. About the tariff plan, right? So this is about the deep state and the distraction. They don't have an answer. They seem to think, they being MAGA, seem to think that the tariffs are just a threat. So a threat is nothing unless you're willing to follow through. So if that's the case, if it's just a threat, then if Justin Trudeau goes down to Mar-a-Lago to say, you're going to tariff us, we're going to tariff you. The Mexican president, who I freaking love, totally love her. She's like, no, don't play that game. I think it's 60% or roughly 60% of our oil comes from a combination of Canada and Mexico. So MAGA, the answer is, if it's just a threat, what happens if they don't respond, if they don't take the threat? Then all of a sudden your prices go up. I was literally in a conversation with someone last night who said, well, that's part of the game. I guess it's okay that our prices go up. How can it be okay that your prices go up when for the past 4 years, every single day, you complained about the price for a gallon of eggs? It's an inside joke. How is that? Make that make sense? Again, this is the distraction, right? This is part of the distraction. Tell you whatever we need to tell you.
I have a lot to say about this.
Go for it.
Yeah,
I know it's part of it because it's on your outline. We've got this. We'll talk about it because this is part of the distraction and the deep state. Do you think? Here's a question before you get into it, Felice. So if it's, let's just game this out. If it's a 25% tariff, meaning that there's a 25% upcharge, do we think corporations are only going to stop at 25%? Hell no, they're not. They're going to test the market because there's going to be things that consumers are going to have to buy. So then they get richer and richer and richer. And then, oh, by the way, they get a tax cut to boot. Come on. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and it's not even, I mean, how the free market works, which MAGA proves every day. They have no idea how, like, they have never taken a basic economics class in their lives. But, like, the real danger of tariffs is that it drives total prices up, right?
Exactly.
It's not just going to be the prices from Mexico, the products from Mexico. It will not just be the products from Canada. It will not just be the products from China, which is all the products. Like what happens is if Mexico enters the market and has to tack on 25%, right? Every other product in the market artificially raises its price to that level, right? That's the free market, right? So American companies, it doesn't matter, right? Products competing against theirs, you raise the price in the market of Mexican products, every other price artificially raises, especially that's how pricing algorithms work. Now, like what Amazon does, right? I mean, this is how they work. It's less about, I mean, yeah, it will artificially raise every product's price in the market. But I want to just really paint the line of logic for you with what happened with Trump. So it all started with China, right? Like let's all remember, because MAGA has absolute amnesia, right? You have to when you're in cognitive dissonance and nothing is making sense, you just have to have amnesia. You can't, because none of this makes sense. Trump ran on 60% tariffs to China. Does anyone remember the 60% tariffs to China? I remember the 60% tariffs to China. That's what he was going to do. Now, did he go to Xi Jinping and say that? No. What did he do? This all started with China. Trump said, I'm going to put a 10% across the board tariff on China. And do you know what Xi Jinping said? Try it.
Yeah, go for it.
I will bury your economy. I will turn the American economy off. Have you heard of mutually assured destruction? I will end you. Have you heard Trump saying anything about China? No, because he's like, try it. I'll turn your economy off, which he can. If China fails, we fail.
Correct.
Understand that. We are so intertwined. If we hurt China, we hurt ourselves. And I'm not even talking about us paying more as consumers. We are going to be damaged. And understand the point of a tariff is so billionaires don't pay taxes.
Correct.
That is, instead of levying revenue from corporations and billionaires, they're getting another tax cut. And we got to make up that revenue somewhere. So in addition to us paying taxes, right, then every time we transact, we pay the billionaires and the corporations taxes. That's the reality of why we're doing tariffs. But China was like, try it, I dare you. So then Trump's like, oh no, this isn't looking good for me. I've got to get a win here because Trump is a grifter, right? So Trump is a complete grifter. Please understand that. And a deal breaker. That's what Trump's known for. Making deals and breaking them. Let me remind you of how Trump is a grifter who's broken a deal. Have you heard of NAFTA? The North American Trade Agreement? Free Trade Agreement? That was an agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, our biggest trading partners. And when Donald Trump was president the first time, he was like, he had to renegotiate it, right? It's again up in 2026. Changed. But he said, no, I want this to be my deal. So I'm going to what? He didn't just renegotiate NAFTA. He amended it and renamed it. It is now called the USMCA. So he could do a press release and take credit for the deal. He made this deal, the USMCA. So when he now went to Mexico and Canada, this is a grifter breaking his own deal. That's who Trump is. He's a grifter who made a deal, promised to honor it until 2026, and is breaking his own deal that he negotiated with Canada and with Mexico. So that's the first thing to understand. This man is a grifter.
It's technically violating federal law because it is a treaty. So not only will consumers feel the impact of a 25% cost increase if we assume the math 25% on Canada and Mexico, is to violate federal law to do it. So it's like his own deal.
His own deal. I mean, this is what Trump does. He goes back on his own deals.
Yeah.
But it gets worse than that. So he went to Claudia Sheinbaum.
Everybody, please keep tapping. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, I was going to say, tap the screen, guys. Let's try to get to 100K. Share the live. Everyone share the live with 5 people. Let's see if we can get some more people in here. Because this is important.
Please, gifting goal, subscribing goal. Please contribute to Felice's pay apps. They're above her head. Sorry,
okay, so then he goes to Claudia Sheinbaum, who, if you know who Claudia Sheinbaum is, this woman is a literal genius, right?
I love her.
You are talking about a PhD, environmental scientist, like, who is a grassroots student political activist who helped get her predecessor and mentor elected by rallying student activists in Mexico. This woman is a veritable genius. And in my opinion, just like attorney generals all, in blue states have been working for over a year, right, to prepare the lawsuits they're going to file against Trump when he tries it, right? Just don't think that they're like, oh no, Trump got elected. We haven't been planning for this. The lawsuits are already drawn up. They have been crafting defenses against the mass deportation and all sorts of things. And it looks like Claudia Sheinbaum has been as well. She was very much expecting this, right? And that's what you need to notice is Justin Trudeau, his reaction versus Claudia Sheinbaum, right? Trump tried it with Claudia, and she said, oh, excuse me, I'm already ready. Read off a list, right? Trump tried to say, and this is why he's saying this. Remember this. He's trying to say, because Americans are going to get very angry, we are going to be taxed twice. Every time we buy a product, we're going to pay for Trump not paying taxes, for his billionaire friends not paying taxes. So he has to come up with a line of logic that makes sense. So now it's illicit substances. It's Correct. The war on drugs, right? It's
in her statement, she says,
what China's bringing in, the F word. I'm not going to say it because
in her statement, she says 70% of the illegal weapons seized from criminals in Mexico come from your country, Mr. Trump.
That's where I was going to go into. Imagine trying to say,
nor do we consume synthetic drugs. Tragically, it is in our country that lives are lost to the violence resulting from meeting the drug demand in your country.
Yeah,
I love her.
so understand they don't have this problem in Mexico, right? We are consuming, I believe it's actually 90% of the world's
Correct.
synthetic opiate that we all know we're talking about that starts with an F.
Correct.
We consume it, right? Not them. Now imagine saying, oh, there's T groups in Mexico, we need to attack them while also arming them.
Right.
Those are our pew-pews.
Right.
That are, they can trace back the serial numbers. We are arming the people, the T
cartels.
groups we're allegedly saying, well, that's what Trump calls them, that we're allegedly saying we're at war with. This is an us problem. The demand is here in the U.S., right? We are arming the alleged cartels or T groups that are our enemies, right? And Claudia Sheinbaum had this all listed out and said, she also said, hey, surprise, Stellantis, Ford, Volkswagen, your American companies are here in Mexico.
Right.
Their factories are here. So when you put those 25% taxes or tariffs on top of everything, you are punishing your own American companies who, through the USMCA that you negotiated, built plants here. That's
same
what
thing with
you're
John
doing.
Deere.
You're punishing American corporations and you are punishing American consumers, right?
Remember the threat against John Deere too. The threat against John Deere. He 200%. I think that was the number that he threw out there. There was going to be a 200% tariff if John Deere decided to move manufacturing to Mexico. This is the game again. This is the distraction. This is the whole point. Meanwhile, there's this whole
none of this
game.
is real.
Yeah.
None of this is real. None of this is going to happen. So Claudia Sheinbaum's like, bullet points. Hey, I knew you were going to try it with me. And the other thing, so understand, just go back to his strategy is Americans are going to get very angry and they're going to be very poor. I don't want to pay taxes. My billionaire friends don't want to pay taxes. I've got to levy the revenue, so I'm going to do it through tariffs. I'm going to pretend that this is about the war on illicit substances, right? So maybe they will think I'm doing something great. And also immigration. So that was the next thing, right? The caravans that never were. Biden stopped the caravans. I really want to stress this because we have a problem in the Democratic Party not taking credit for our wins, right? The caravans, and I can tell you this, and I knew this months ago, because this problem, and Claudia Sheinbaum says it, we already solved that problem. Don't lie about it. There are no caravans going to the United States. They call it the carousel now. And if you hear, and that's the same word in Spanish. And they basically, they move in, like in northern Mexico, they cross into northern Mexico, they start moving south, they're picked up by Mexican authorities, put on buses like a carousel, and dropped back off in northern Mexico. Some of them try it again, they pick them up again and move them back to northern Mexico and encourage them to go across the border. They call it the carousel. This problem, that was a Kamala Harris. She went there. Her and Anthony Blinken, they worked with Mexico.
Correct.
They developed that solution. Joe Biden never took credit for it. And that's something we need to get better at as Democrats. We reduced encounters at the border by 40%.
I agree.
The problem is solved. An app to make appointments solved our problem at the border.
There's a report that Pew Research has done recently. This is the title of the report is Encounters with Migrants at the U.S.-Mexico Border peaked in December 2023, but have plummeted since then to the rate now as of August of this year of 58,038. At one point during the Trump administration, it was 3 times higher than that. So the numbers are constantly coming down. We know the crime rate. We know that undocumented immigrants and immigrants in general commit crimes exponentially lower than U.S.-born citizens. The bulk of the F drug that comes into our country, 90% is done by U.S. citizens through ports of entry, either be airports or et cetera. So again, back to the theme of today's show. It's all about the distraction, all about the noise. The bathroom issue, are you kidding me? Meanwhile, corporations are mocking you, laughing at you as they get richer and richer and richer and richer. An administration loaded with billionaires and pardoned felons and guys who've got sexual assault allegations against them. Pete Hegseth. Kash Patel, potentially the head of the FBI. Bill Barr, who I'm not a big fan of, had come out during the Trump administration when there was rumors then of replacing Chris Wray with Kash Patel. And Bill Barr's like, not on my watch. He wouldn't be able to pass a background check. Tulsi Gabbard. All the people in the intelligence community globally, like, are you kidding me? Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence? This is the point. This is the distraction. This is the deep state. Like, cabinet of deplorables. Exactly, Ellen. Everybody, please keep tapping. We're kind of hovering. We might have to turn the comments off. You guys got to get busy. Get tapping, please. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, keep tapping the screen, share the live. So I think Claudia Sheinbaum put on a clinic, right? She said, try it. There will be retaliatory tariffs. You're responsible for all these problems, right? The demand for the F illicit substances in your country. We all know the way to treat those problems. It's not with a fake war on cartels. It's with it's concentrating money in education and rehabilitation, right? Countries like Portugal, who have decriminalized illicit substances, have and redirected their money, right, towards education and rehabilitation, have actually seen success. That's what Claudia Sheinbaum's saying. She put on a clinic. Did she get up and crawl to Mar-a-Lago like Justin Trudeau? No, she didn't even move. She just got on a call with him. And then what happened? And I'll show this later on my show, but all over Trump's like, I won. This is the distraction and the lie. I won. I had a call. I won. If you won, you would have gotten something, right? She said no. She said, this is all your fault. Here's some retaliatory tariffs. And let me tell you the truth. And let me make sure I get this right. I don't want to misquote it. Let me tell you how you know that Claudia Sheinbaum, a woman, wiped the floor with Donald Trump, right? The day after all this happened, and this is another thing that that the titles of articles are trying to distort so Trump doesn't get mad. But the day after this happened, literally, the foreign currency exchange is valuing the peso over the dollar. Yeah. So I mean, that's a win. Claudia Sheinbaum won. Her peso is valued, I think it's 1.2 times or 1.5 times against the dollar.
So this is again,
the peso gained 1.5% versus the dollar as of 9 a.m. in London on Thursday, outperforming all emerging market currencies. Right?
I'll just read some of her statement.
1.5% versus the dollar.
This is from President Sheinbaum. So this is dated November the 26th. So, dear President-elect Trump, I'm writing to you regarding your statement on Monday, November 25th, concerning migration, the F-drug, trafficking, and tariffs. You may not be aware that Mexico has developed a comprehensive policy to assist migrants from different parts of the world who cross our territory en route to the southern border of the United States. As a result, and according to data from your country's Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, encounters at the Mexico-U.S. border have decreased by 75% between December 2023 and November 2024. Moreover, half of those who arrive do so through a legally scheduled appointment under the U.S.'s CBP One program. For these reasons, migrant caravans no longer arrive at the border. Even so, it's clear that we must work together to create a new labor mobility model that is necessary for your country, as well as address the root causes that compel families to leave their homes out of necessity. If even a small percentage of what the United States allocates to war were instead dedicated to building peace and fostering development, it would address the underlying causes of human mobility. On another note, and for humanitarian reasons, Mexico has consistently expressed its willingness to help prevent the F epidemic in the U.S. from continuing. This is, after all, a public health and consumption problem within your society. So far this year, Mexican armed forces and prosecutors have seized tons of various types of illicits, 10,340 firearms, and have detained 15,640 individuals for violence related to trafficking. Furthermore, the Mexican Congress is in the process of approving a constitutional reform to classify the production, distribution, and commercialization of F and other synthetic drugs as a serious crime without bail. However, it is publicly known the chemical precursors used to produce this and other synthetic drugs are illegally entering Canada, the U.S., and Mexico from Asian countries. This underscores the urgent need to international collaboration. You must also be aware of the illegal trafficking of firearms into my country from yours. Interesting. 70% of the illegal weapons seized from criminals in Mexico come from your country. We do not produce these weapons, nor do we consume synthetic illicits. Tragically, it is in our country that lives are lost to the violence resulting from meeting the demands in your country. She slapped him down so hard. It continues. President Trump, migration and drug consumption in the U.S. cannot be addressed through threats or tariffs. What is needed is cooperation and mutual understanding to tackle these significant challenges. For every tariff, there will be a response in kind until we put at risk our shared enterprises. Yes, shared. For instance, among Mexico's main exporters to the U.S. are General Motors, Stellantis, and Ford Motor Company, which arrived in Mexico 80 years ago. Why impose a tariff that would jeopardize them? Such a measure would be unacceptable and would lead to inflation and job losses in both the U.S. and in Mexico. I'm convinced that North America's economic strength lies in maintaining our trade partnership. This allows us to remain competitive against other economic blocs. For this reason, I believe that dialogue is the best path to understanding, peace, and prosperity for our nations. I hope our teams can meet soon to continue building joint solutions. Boom. You're muted.
Boom. Roasted.
Yeah.
Boom.
I mean,
roasted. No, yeah.
that's crazy.
Can I just address something in the comments? There are women in the comments yelling at me saying that I'm interrupting you. I'm just passionate about what I'm talking about. I'm a multiracial woman. If I was a man and I was aggressive, would you insult me the same way? That's what I ask you.
Yeah, everybody, please, that's just not cool. If you don't like it, you can leave.
Like, I'm just passionate what I'm talking about. I spent all night working on an outline and researching this, so that's why I'm passionate.
Agreed. And I'm happy you're here. I'm really happy you're here.
Yeah, so, and I apologize if I overtalked you at any point.
You don't need to apologize to me. It's all good. I just think that's a really, really good example of the lies that Trump tells his base that gets echoed on Fox News and various other right-wing echo chambers. And the reality is President PhD of Mexico, Scheinbaum, literally said, you want to play? Let's play. Punish your own country, punish your own companies. So again, MAGA, the question that we ask, if tariffs are not his economic plan, then what is? You froze for a second there.
I didn't. Sorry. I don't know if I froze or you froze a little bit. I didn't hear exactly what you said. I just don't want to make it. For a second, it cut up. So I think it might have been mine. Could you just repeat the last part?
Sure. It was just that, the threats that Trump makes using, claiming the win after the phone call that gets echoed by Fox News and other right-wing outlets. Meanwhile, President Scheinbaum writes this scathing letter to say, you want to play? Let's play. I'll play. Sure. You want to tariff us? I'll tariff you. Right back. And as a reminder, MAGA, between Mexico and Canada, I think the number is 70%. Somebody can quote me on that. You might know, Felice, that we get 70% of our imported oil from Mexico and Canada combined. And then we mix it with ours because it's cheaper. And that allows us to sell it cheaper than a lot of other countries around the world. So that's part of it.
And I think, sorry.
It's okay.
I was just going to say, I think that, is to speak to the oil. It also speaks, when I say Claudia Sheinbaum, you read it. She put on a clinic. She did not get up out of her chair to do it, right? She did.
Exactly.
Trump wants to play this embarrassing social media game. She can play it too, right? And she did very well. Now, Justin Trudeau crawled to Mar-a-Lago, right? I think Claudia showed us how to deal with Trump. You don't move. You don't crawl to, that's what Trump wants, is the optics. Oh, Justin Trudeau showed up in Florida. While we have another president, by the way, bypassed Biden, showed up in Florida. And it doesn't matter what they talked about. No one is saying what was talked about at that dinner, but, Trump is lying, and saying, I won. But to speak to the oil, right, we get a lot of oil from Canada. And what people don't understand is that's heavy crude. People are just like, oh my God, Judge Janine, I'll play it if I show it. Box of Wine Janine was on Fox being like, yeah, we're going to show Canada. Once we're energy independent, I mean, is she lying? Does she know, or is she lying? You know what I'm saying? Fox News is completely pretending we are not energy independent, which the United States has been under Biden. Mm-hmm. We are in fact energy independent and have been this entire time. And Judge Janine's like, now that we're threatening Canada, we start producing more oil here, we don't need their oil. Actually, Canada produces heavy crude oil, right? We produce light crude oil. It's completely different and used for different things, right? Yeah, we get most of our heavy crude oil, which is for machinery and runs things. The oil we're producing, that's why we're selling it. That's why
Correct.
Energy independent is about what's going out, what's coming in, you know what I mean? It's a balance between the two. We can't use the type of oil we're producing for everything. That's why we need Canada. That's
right.
why we negotiate with Canada, because it's different, the types of oil.
That's right. And again, this is the hypocrisy that we see, because we know, you and I know full well that on 1201 on Inauguration Day, all of a sudden the economy that we've been riding on, the greatest economy in the world when compared to other G20 countries, MAGA will say our economy's in great shape. See what Trump did? This is the point. This is the entire point. It's the hypocrisy and the distraction. It's the reality of what is happening that MAGA has been in denial for the last 4 years. Oh, and on that topic, every single day, people have come into your lives and come into my lives and social media and have called Democrats despicable things, horrible things. You know, the entire party is made up of P3DOs and the Biden crime family, this and that. And now you're pissed off and your feelings are hurt because we're holding you to account because you voted for a rapist and a felon. And now you're going to hold us to account that the entire cabinet is built on with billionaires. The entire thing is built on corruption, and now your feelings are hurt. Miss me with that nonsense. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Miss me with that shit.
Nonsense. It's so true. And the line is, and saw someone in the comments mention avocados, right? Or I think, and the line on Fox News, which I was clipping this morning because I couldn't believe it, is like, hey, maybe guacamole is going to cost more, but don't you want the war on illicit substances to end? This is a false line of logic that means nothing, right? Again, like Fact said, and Claudia Scheinbaum so effectively pointed out, right? It's Americans who are dealing the F illicit substance to other Americans. This is an American problem, right?
Correct.
The demand is in America. And that's the lie that Trump is selling. This is 24 hours a day being sold on Fox News. Hey, Americans, you're going to have to pay more. You're going to be broke, but don't you want to save your children? That's what they're saying. So when you hear it, push back. That's ridiculous and it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like it's the emotional connection, and to their credit, you and I both have worked in advertising and marketing over the years. To the right's credit, when you appeal to emotion, it's a difficult response. Like you can't. There's no way you can effectively message against someone when they say we're in this to protect the children. So people hear that, they see the headline, they think that women are being assaulted in bathrooms by members of the trans community, and we just know it's not true. We think that scholarships are being given to trans athletes in sports as former Division I athletes. We can talk about that specifically. It's just nonsense. What's the percentage? 0.00001% of D1 athletes identify as trans. I think the numbers. It's just crazy. So the big picture is what we're talking about are actually things that are going to harm families. You know, not being able to have an extended child tax credit, or taxes going up for the middle class, or public schools being closed, or lack of access to health care.
On November 26th, and this is so important, right? Like on November 26th, Texas announced that they will stop reporting maternal mortality deaths.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
They are going to cover up the unalivings of women due to lack of OBGYN care in Texas, right? That's the distraction is, oh, who's in what bathroom? We need to protect women. And I was showing Fax's study. This is what I was doing on Thanksgiving. I was showing Fax's study, the real studies, the real data, right? There's no correlation. There's no statistical correlation between the trans community in the bathroom that they identify with and assaults on women. There is, however, a correlation between forcing the trans community into bathrooms that is not the gender identity they identify with, and them being both physically and assaulted as a result of that. And I'm talking about students, children. There is a great NIH study, which it's in today's outline. If you're in my Discord, I included the study in this outline for this live, and you can see it and you can present it to people. There is no data to support Nancy Mace's delusions about how bathrooms work, right? How do bathrooms work? I think, did you happen to read that article? Because I think it's beautiful. How do bathrooms work? Does Nancy Mace know how women's restrooms work, right?
Apparently not.
There are stalls that either go to the floor or about 12 inches from the floor. No one's seeing anyone's flesh. Now, if there is, let's say, a creepy man, which is much more likely, or, I don't know, 6 koalas in a trench coat who are trying to peer under the stall to see a woman. And I think that's how we should say it now. Forget the trans community. 6 koalas in a trench coat enter a bathroom to try to peek under the stall to get a view at women or to touch a woman. Is that illegal? It certainly is. It always has been. And you alert security and say, hey, there are 6 koalas in a trench coat trying to peep on me and harass me. And then they are prosecuted as such. It has always been illegal. To say we need we don't legislate problems that don't exist. And that's how you need to present it to the Republicans of small government.
Right.
If you are really a Republican and you want small government, you should want small government federally. You should want small government in states, if you're logically consistent, right? And when we legislate against crime is when there is a statistical correlation, right? So we should be legislating to protect the trans community. There is no problem with the trans community in bathrooms, right? Isolated incidents, yes. Statistical correlation, no. But again, anybody who goes into a women's restroom and tries to creep on women is doing something illegal. But that's the distraction.
It's just the hypocrisy from Nancy Mace too, right, Felice? I mean, a victim of SA, and yet so critical of other women who've been victimized. I mean, she went after E. Jean Carroll. It's just, again, when you've sold your soul.
I keep those clips on my phone. Like, I don't have all clips on my phone. That interview, when she did that and had the nerve to say to George Stephanopoulos, oh, you're just attacking a rape victim. As a rape victim,
right?
Child and adult, right? Nancy Mace is attacking rape victims, right? She's shaming rape victims. She's saying their stories are lies. And and that's the point George Stephanopoulos made in that interview. The reason Trump calls him George Slopadopoulos, the reason there's an ongoing lawsuit Trump filed against ABC News is because George Stephanopoulos pointed out the truth, that Nancy Mace claims to be a victim of rape and is publicly shaming other rape victims and saying that their story is a lie. Like that's what she's doing. Now, and let me blow your mind further with Nancy Mace. 2021, you look it up. She's posting all over. I'm an advocate of the LGBTQIA. I am a caucus of one. I am the modern Republican. I support the trans community. This is everywhere. You can look it up. 3 years ago, Nancy Mace was saying the opposite. What had happened was Donald Trump threatened to primary her. And then all of a sudden, she had a whole new set of beliefs. That's the truth. This is a woman who was an advocate for the LGBTQIA, outspoken advocate.
1999, Nancy Mace
changed her mind to stay in power.
Yeah, I mean, she had an opportunity to be a true difference maker, because in 1999, Nancy Mace shattered a glass ceiling at the Citadel, which was a military institution in Virginia. Now she's fixated on who gets past bathroom doors. She was a staunch advocate for pro-transgender policies and legislation. Now she's the face of bathroom politics. Why? Just as Felice described. Again, this is the hypocrisy. This is the distraction, because she got threatened to be primaried. So it's people. This is the strange part about it. Now, people, having worked in politics, I know politics can work for citizens because I believe your policies follow your values. Right. So in her case, she shattered glass ceilings by being one of the first women to be enrolled in the Citadel. And now here we are. She graduate. Exactly. She mocks.
She was the first female graduate of the Citadel. Yeah.
Right. So she mocks rape victims as a woman who's been raped herself or assaulted herself. Right. Now she was a hardcore supporter for transgender and LGBTQ rights. And now, because she got the threat to be pardoned or threat to be primaried, here we are. here we are. This is what happened. This is the distraction. So what do you want to believe, MAGA? So if you're a supporter of Nancy Mace, do you believe her now or do you believe her then? And then the criticism oftentimes about people. So Kamala Harris, perfect example, a change in her beliefs on policies. So you hold a change in Kamala Harris's belief on gun control now, but it used to be different years ago. You can't make up your mind. That's why your arguments fail, because you're just not consistent. Just be consistent in your arguments. Just be consistent. What does that mean, threat to be primaried? So, Elena, what that means is unless you stand in lockstep with the Trump administration or any particular party, Trump then would advocate and support a candidate to run against you in your primary. That's what it means to be primaried. I think everybody should be primaried. I don't like incumbencies just because it's incumbent. I don't think any election in our country should ever run unopposed. I think everybody should be primaried. That's including people on the left. I think it's good for democracy.
Oh, no, it 100% is. But when they're saying primary, understand how shady it is. When they're talking about primarying someone in the Republican Party, the threat is this. And you'll hear, if you listen to right-wing media, they are saying it. They were threatening Republican senators if they didn't let Matt Gaetz, the child trafficker, through confirmation, right? But there was enough pushback to push him, to beat him back. But they were saying, hey, the richest man in the world runs the richest PAC in the world, and he's holding hands with Elon Musk in the White House. And either you get in line with the Republican logic, you parrot Republican talking points, which is trans people bad, right? Or we use the richest man in the world with the richest PAC in the world, and we throw millions of dollars at you. You cannot survive it. What do you want to do?
I want to just address
something. Threat.
I want to just address something real quick about how I saw somebody in the comments saying that Trump won a landslide. Let's get over it. So if Trump won in a landslide with a margin of 1.7%, then what was Joe Biden's victory in 2020? Because he won with a margin of 4.5%. So, and then you refer to that as not being a landslide. Again, this is the hypocrisy. Sorry, I just wanted to address that comment real quick.
No, it's so true. Well, it's the distraction. No, you're being lied to on Fox News. What they're saying on Fox News, the distraction is Trump won in a landslide, and you'll hear the word mandate. He has a mandate, meaning any illegal thing Trump wants to do, and we can talk about Kash Patel and why that's probably worse than Watergate. There's a beautiful article detailing that in The Atlantic that came out yesterday. I suggest everyone read it.
Yes.
Right? But that's what they're saying. They're using that as an excuse. It's not true. You can look at the numbers. Trump declared victory when millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of votes were not counted. Trump has won in the smallest popular vote, or like, is it the second small? It's either second or second smallest margin in like modern history. Trump
Correct.
did not win in a landslide.
No.
Biden won, like you said, Biden won by much more. That is not true, but you are being told that. You are being lied to. Why are you being lied to? That's what you have to ask yourself. Why?
That's right. And I want to get into
what's in it for them?
And I want to get into your outline because there's so many.
Hospital?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please. I want to get into your outline. I do want to address something real quick because there's again some more misinformation that's going around about the House. So 217 to 215, and that includes that takes into account Waltz, Stefanik, and Matt Gaetz's resignations from their seats in Congress, which means the margin will be one vote. So it's 217 to 215. So people are trying to claim that would be not a majority. Well, the way that the House works, it's based on voting members. So the margin to take the majority with 432 members is 217. So they literally have a one vote margin. Now those seats, they'll be primary. They will have special elections to fill those seats. Two of those districts are solidly red, but there's a possibility of the Stefanik seat, because I live not far from her district in upstate New York. There's a possibility that could flip. So ultimately, right now, it's a one vote margin that the Republicans have in the House. So that is interesting. And what we've seen from the last Congress is that they can't pass policy on their own. They need the Democrats to help. And I think that Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats through Mike Johnson numerous lifeboats, life preservers in the last Congress. I highly doubt we'll see that again. So it's going to be interesting because, again, a lot of this legislation that Trump wants to pass is going to have to get through the House, and I don't see a lot of it getting through the House. So if there's good news, the problem, though, is that government stalls. So you have no legislation moving. You can't make policy changes. You can't do anything to try to help the American people because of the feckless because of the feckless people in Congress. Are you back? It looks like you got bad Wi-Fi all of a sudden. You're back.
Sorry. Are you there?
Okay.
I changed internet networks because it's kind of cutting in and out a little bit for me. So I just switched my internet network to see if that helped. No, I couldn't agree more. The House margin is the smallest. They are in a worse position than they were in the 118th
Correct.
Congress.
Correct.
They have a smaller margin now. So you lost ground, Republicans, in the House. That is what happened, right? I mean, and
exactly.
You saw that. And I think I was talking to someone about Claudia Sheinbaum, and Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is a lot like Nancy Pelosi. Came from these like political families. Nancy Pelosi has the sharpest elbows and had a very small margin, but never missed a vote count, right?
Right.
When Nancy Pelosi went to the floor, she had the votes. And you see Mike Johnson, the Republicans are flailing around. They miss vote counts all the time. They can't pass anything. They're fighting each other. They are a clown car. You guys are a clown car in the House.
But I think what we're seeing, though, and this is my fear again, this is the deep state, because what you see elements within Project 2025 is the consolidation of power to the executive, which means you can forego Congress in certain ways. At least that's the plan. Because he knows that he doesn't have full support in Congress in both the Republican and Democratic Party, right? He knows he's not going to get a lot of his legislation through, so he's going to use the power, especially the part that concerns me the most, and you mentioned it, I want to unpack that a second, is because the executive branch has power over law enforcement. Because the Department of Justice is an executive branch wing of the party. So when you have Pam Bondi, who everybody, MAGA, you should be deathly afraid of her and her stance on gun rights. She is a full-on hardcore supporter of red flag laws and universal background checks. So good luck with that. And then Kash Patel, who is, I don't have my setup now. I can't play the audio, but he's talked about closing the J. Edgar Hoover building in D.C., and then basically telling all those 6,000 employees to just spread out across the country and enforce the law. So that part of the executive branch, the Justice Department, the crime fighting force within the executive branch should scare everybody. This goes back to the illegal immigration in their words, or this mass deportation exercise. So why don't we unpack the Kash Patel piece? Because I know you touched on that, Felice, and I think this is really, really, really scary. First of all, he may not even get confirmed just because of how, although does he have to be? I don't think that's a Senate confirmation seat. I'm not sure. Have to look into that. The Attorney General would be.
Well, I can tell you. I can speak to that. So, okay. Christopher Wray, and that's the thing. So Kash Patel in itself is a distraction. Know that Donald Trump wants us all to be like, Kash Patel is a bum who's unqualified. He has no business being in this seat. Like, how could this happen? He's crazy. Look at all these crazy things he said. That's the point, right? Yeah. Because the real crime has nothing to do with Kash Patel. The crime is that there is precedent for the incoming president to assign an AG, an attorney general who is maybe an ally or sympathetic to the president in a way. Their goals are aligned. That's not unheard of. What is unheard of is replacing the FBI director. It is unheard of, right? It is a violation of, the separation of powers, essentially. This is not supposed to happen. Since the FBI started with J. Edgar Hoover, it was a spy agency used to spy on Americans that were being accused of communism. Right.
McCarthy era.
And in order to stop that, because they're like, this J. Edgar Hoover and the G-men can never happen again, they changed a lot of the rules. They made it a 10-year term, FBI director, so it would transcend political presidents coming and going. Right? So Christopher Wray is supposed to transcend Donald Trump. He's supposed to be able to stay there. Now you could say, well, Trump fired James Comey. Yeah, he did, but how did he do it? Now, there are documents we know about from FOIA requests that Trump wanted to fire James Comey. Why? He had a dinner with him and he said, I need you to pledge loyalty to me.
Correct.
I need you to stop this investigation into any and all connections between the Trump campaign and Russia. Stop it. And Comey said, I'm not loyal to you. I'm loyal to the American people. But Republican advisors said to Trump, you cannot fire James Comey because he's going to prosecute you or go after the Trump campaign because you did something illegal. They're like, however, James Comey did do something for you, and you could use that as an excuse. So if you look up the excuse of why James Comey was let go, it wasn't about the Russia investigation, which Trump was angry about. It was about Hillary Clinton, right? During the quiet period of an election, James Comey went in and cast doubt if Hillary Clinton had done something wrong having an email server, right?
Like
Never
3
actually
weeks
brought
before.
charges.
Yeah.
3 weeks before the election, basically implied publicly that she had committed a crime, which is unprecedented and is grounds for firing. So Trump said he was firing James Comey for that reason, right? But Christopher Wray has done nothing like that. Christopher Wray is kind of a Boy Scout a Republican Boy Scout. I don't think so, but a Republican Boy Scout who's held the line, done what he's supposed to do. So if Trump has said either Christopher Wray can resign or I'm going to force him out. And this answers your question. If Trump forces Christopher Wray out and he doesn't resign, then Kash Patel is subject to Senate confirmation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and that's probably what will happen. If Christopher Wray cares about the American people, he will wait for Trump to officially fire him, and then then Kash Patel will be questioned by the Senate.
Yeah,
and they need to question him.
And confirmations are not subject to the filibuster. Those are just simple up-down majority vote. So that's part of the issue as well. So, the reality is that I think the majority, I think it's 53-47. I think that's the count in the Senate now. So it still only takes 51 or 50 with the VP breaking the tie to confirm some of these people. So that should scare everyone. Again, this is the hypocrisy. This is the distraction. This is the deep state. This is what we're facing. Pam Bondi's another story because I'm surprised, quite frankly, I'm kind of surprised. Let's remember, she was investigating Trump for various frauds connected to all kinds of things with his charities and the like. And then, he gave a bunch of money to one of her reelection campaigns, and all of a sudden those, investigations went away.
And the Citizen, Crew, which is my favorite nonprofit, my favorite non-governmental organization, Noah Bookbinder is a warrior. Crew, the Citizens for Renewed Ethics in Washington, they started questioning that, right? Trump had to pay a fine for an illegal campaign contribution. He was not allowed to bribe her, essentially. And
I found that audio about Kash Patel. I think it's important to play it. I think it's necessary. It just kind of gives you who this guy is.
And I think they're probably... FBI, Kash Patel told us what he wants to do on day one. Let's listen.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
This job requires Senate confirmation. Daniel, any indications that he'll have trouble getting it?
Yeah, there is some reminders of the Matt Gaetz nomination, which got scuttled. There's no scandals like that in Kash Patel's background. But I think Republican senators are getting some heartburn this morning because they'll have to either oppose Trump on this, and they don't want to give him a lot of black eyes because they already have to deal with Pete Hegseth. And I think they're probably recalling an episode when Trump tried to put Patel in as head of the FBI, and Bill Barr said, "Over my dead body," and blocked it. And so what's interesting about this move is that Trump actually put in the FBI director, Chris Wray. He's Republican, appointed by a Republican, but he is not seen as loyal enough. And it'll be interesting to see if all of that stuff that you quoted, is that just campaign bluster? Is that to rile up his base? Or is it actually he's going to try to go after journalists where he will get a lot of pushback from members of agents of the FBI who that's not their job.
Well, speak.
So the irony about that entire statement, and I think is interesting, again, goes back to the hypocrisy and the distraction, is that he is literally saying, I am going to use the government, I'm going to weaponize the government against American citizens, the media, people who oppose us. That goes in line with the enemy from within comments that Trump made about going after woke Democrats. It's about the military, talking about, changing the shape of the U.S. military, the complexion of the U.S. military by firing woke radical Democrats. That is a perfect example of it's the SS, it's the Gestapo. It's literally using the government to go after people who disagree with you. And for years, the right has been accusing the left of weaponization. Meanwhile, all we were doing, all the justice system was doing, was investigating Donald Trump for his crimes. So make that make sense, Felice. Make that make sense.
No, and I mean, I'd like that this is going to be on Republicans, right? I kind of like that these cabinet positions, the confirmation, because Republicans do have some line. Everyone knows Kash Patel is not qualified. Everybody knows that, right?
Yeah, neither is Pete Hegseth.
And so we'll see. When it's not Republicans fighting Democrats, when they don't think they're in some just war where they all need to hold a line, do you guys have any ethics? We shall see. And I think that's the interesting thing. But I would say, know that Donald Trump is a malignant narcissist and does not care if Kash Patel gets through one way or another, right? That's right. His first salvo. The point is the distraction. Look at this crazy person, this zealot, this Trump zealot that Trump would appoint. If he doesn't get through, cool, Trump appoints someone else, and no one's mentioning the fact that Trump should never be allowed to oust an FBI director. That is the real degradation of our American democracy. It's the fact that he's firing an FBI director. So the distraction is Kash Patel. Look at this crazy person. Look at Matt Gaetz, the child sex trafficker. These are the distractions. And let's say Kash Patel doesn't get through. Okay, but he gets someone else who's going to carry water for him anyways. And he wins. It's a distraction.
Charles Kushner, just think about this, people in his cabinet. Charles Kushner, we talked about this earlier, part of a plot to frame his brother-in-law for sex crimes. Matt Gaetz, we know his story. Pete Hegseth, we know his story. We know of the corruption of Kash Patel. We know of the corruption of Dinesh D'Souza. We know Tom Homan in his rhetoric regarding brown people and what he wants to do. The list goes on and on and on. So we're here to try to remind people of exactly what is it that you voted for, because the majority of people that I've spoken to have no clue about any of this. It's because you're not living in reality, quite frankly. By the way, the box is open. If anybody wants to come up and have a chat with us, that's fine. We'd love to talk to opposition, but we know how that goes sometimes. Everybody, please make sure you're gifting Felice. Her pay apps are above her head. Please consider joining the team by clicking the heart. If you'd like to check out some merch, there's some new merch in our merch store. You'll find the link to the merch store in my bio. Please join our YouTube. We're not broadcasting on YouTube today, but we will be this week. My apologies for that. But please continue to do that. Go ahead, Felice.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm broadcasting on YouTube. A Girl Has No Name. If you want to watch on your TV or something, I am pushing this to YouTube. Same name as my TikTok profile. That's
Beautiful.
what I was going to say. Oh, and let me give you one more example about, the example of Kash Patel being a distraction. We need to talk about John Felon. That's not how you pronounce it, but I'm going to forever pronounce it, John Felon.
Yes, please.
His name is Phelan, right? Phelan. You've never heard of him? Because no one has. I just want to let you know, this is going to be the man in charge of millions of Navy soldiers, billions upon billions of revenue. This man will head up the Navy. What's most important to know about John Felon is that he has never been in the military. This man has never been in the Navy. He has never been in the Army. He has never been in the Coast Guard. He has never done anything that would relate him into the military in any way. And Trump is going to put him in charge of the Navy. Now, what has this man done? He's an art collector.
Right.
Does that qualify you to be in charge of the Navy, John Felon? Because you're a millionaire art collector. Now, let me tell you, how did he get rich? I'll tell you. This man, because the qualifications to be the Navy secretary, to lead, I know, and think about how crazy this is. This is what they're saying. Flood the airways with shit. You guys don't even know about this. They're trying to have a man run the Navy that's never been in the military, knows no one in the military. He's an art collector who gave Trump millions of dollars. He is a donor who gave Trump millions of dollars. What are his qualifications? If you want to be Navy secretary, it says you need to prove you're qualified and have a relevant resume background to run the Navy. Okay, not in the military. He ran a 4-person office, four people in the office. Have you ever heard of Michael Dell, the Dell computer guy?
Yeah.
A billionaire?
Yeah.
This man places his investments and is an art collector. That's who John Felon is, and gave Trump millions of dollars. He's a Club 47. That's the really rich people that hang out at Mar-a-Lago. He's one of those people, one of those donors. And this is a distraction. This is crazy. Now remember, Miles Austin, right? A 4-star general, they called him a DEI hire.
Right.
A black job, a DEI hire who should never be in that position. This is a 4-star general, could not be more overqualified for the position Biden placed him in. And then remember how they yelled about DEI hires, about how he was a DEI hire. They're hiring someone that has no military experience, is an art collector, and gave Trump millions of dollars. But we have to hear about black men being DEI hires, black women being DEI hires.
Right.
The distraction is the point. These people are grifters.
Yeah, like Mark Milley gets labeled a traitor, and that he should be subject to a firing squad. Who's one of the most accomplished and decorated, well-respected veterans, military men to ever serve our nation, respected globally by so many, including some of our adversaries. And yet now we got to deal with a guy who's an art collector. Apparently, if you collect things and you have employees, then you could be the Secretary of the Navy. I guess I'm in line. I've got employees, and I collect guitars. Does that count? Maybe I could be the Secretary of the Navy, Felice. Maybe.
Well, that's a great segue. Have you seen the Trump guitar grift?
I have, yeah. And apparently it's $1,500 retail, but if he signs it, it could spike in value to $11,000. And it's a piece of shit guitar, by the way. It's a piece of shit.
And I think it was Gumps who said something in the chat that was really smart. He said, art dealers it's a great way to launder money. Right?
Oh, totally.
It is. Now,
Totally.
Let me present something else to you. In Trump's first presidency, how did you illegally funnel him money? How? You rented space in Trump Tower, like Chinese state banks. Right. You paid him that way. But the main way was the Trump Hotel.
Exactly.
Right. And this was a way, it was very easy to track. You could see, the Saudi princes are in the lobby. This was a DC hotel where people are booking rooms, overpaying for rooms, and funneling Trump money for access.
That's right.
I want to present an idea. Oh my gosh, I love that. Sorry, I'm ADHD. I love
I'm with you,
that's
squirrel.
a cool gift.
I'm with you.
I'm like, what was that?
You got one too.
Pretty
That's awesome.
colors,
Thank you,
pretty colors. Thank you so much, Mallory. So I want to present the Trump grifts as the new Trump Hotel. That's what it is. We're like, why is Trump doing all these grifts? It's a much harder way to track. Think about the Trump $100,000 watch.
Totally.
You want to talk about a way to launder money? You want to talk about a way for people to pay Trump and not be able to track it, for people to get access to him, like John Phelan funneled Trump millions of dollars. Now he's going to run the Navy. This is the Trump grifts are the new pay Trump. You want access to Trump? Pay for it. When we notice that you've paid for a lot of it, we might consider it.
There was that reporting a couple of years ago about floors in Trump Tower in New York being rented out by no-name individuals specifically, and then them never actually taking occupancy. So like 3 floors of apartment space and office space in Trump Tower rented out to Saudi nationals, Emirati nationals, Chinese billionaires, and them never taking occupancy at all, but continuing to pay their rent every single month. Now, I don't know. I mean, that seems a little suspicious, perhaps. See, this is the stuff when we remind you, MAGA. Again, I go back to this argument. It's the simplest thing for me. You've got a cabinet that's loaded with predators, Pete Hegseth and others, and or billionaires.
Get to that weirdo.
Right, and or billionaires, and yet we're expected to think that they're looking out for us. Yeah.
Just to speak to imagine, you're exactly right. Like the Trump floors of Trump Tower in New York. Now, and we're not even talking about Chinese billionaires, Chinese state bank.
Right.
I'm not talking about a bank from China that is privately owned. I'm talking about the government Chinese state bank.
Right.
China is the majority shareholder, maintaining floors in Trump Tower. Their offices are down the street in another New York building.
Right.
That's where their actual offices are. But they keep paying for the floors in Trump Tower. Now, this is not that what they accuse Biden or Hunter Biden, in the fake Russian propaganda impeachment scheme was a Chinese man, right? Just some man from China that Hunter Biden knew somehow was Joe Biden doing business with China, which turned out to be complete Russian propaganda. I'm telling you, Chinese government-owned banks were not using the office space, but just paying Trump. And their offices were down the street in New York. And all of this can be looked up. It's all documented. There's articles everywhere on it. But that's cognitive dissonance for MAGA. And I'll say this. I think there are a lot of people out there who aren't MAGA, who voted for Trump and are like, what is happening?
Exactly.
We are less safe now. These cabinet picks, I guarantee you, Putin is sleeping well.
Totally.
Right? Putin's thinking, these weirdos, great. So I can run circles around Tulsi Gabbard. You know what I mean? This is the former head of the KGB, Putin was, looking at Tulsi Gabbard and thinking, this is some sycophant I could use, a useful idiot. So for all the people that just thought, Trump's promising a lot. That's hilarious. Is that Putin?
It's Putin.
That's so funny. That is what it is, though. Trump is not an authoritarian. Trump is not Viktor Orban. Trump is not Vladimir Putin. Trump is a guy whose father was an authoritarian. That's the psychology of a malignant narcissist. He is deeply insecure. He doesn't have the stomach for this in reality, and they can smell it on him. They smell Putin smells the insecurity on Donald Trump. I smell it. I was raised by a malignant narcissist.
And let's keep in mind,
he talks too much and delivers nothing.
Keep in mind what Putin's past is. He was known as one of the best sort of manipulators ever to hold power in the KGB. That was his strength. His strength was identifying weakness in individuals. His strength was the ability to manipulate and to recruit. That's what he's done. And that he's a master at it. That's how he became so. That's how he gained notoriety and grew so fast in his career in the KGB. That's who he is. So he's identified this Donald, another victim, easy to manipulate, a stroke ego. He'll be in my pocket in no time. I mean, that's what's happened. That's why we talked before about how it's, thank you, Russia, or thank you, MAGA, for giving Russia control of the United States. Because this is what's happened.
You tell me
every single day.
Yeah, follow the line of logic. And I'm just saying this because I think there are people who voted for Donald Trump who are waking up and thinking, hey, maybe I made a mistake. Follow the line of logic. Why would Russia spend millions to billions of dollars to get Donald Trump elected if he was a formidable foe? If they did not believe they could use him, that he was a useful idiot, would you spend billions of dollars to get him elected? You just have to think about it. You have to open your mind to just think. Why would they do that if they were scared of him?
Right. Would you have right-wing talking heads on your payroll pushing right-wing, pumping out Russian propaganda? Would you have Tucker Carlson in your pocket? If again, Russian propaganda, Vladimir Putin goes public and said that he would rather have Kamala Harris as the president. Again, the fact that they bought that hook, line, and sinker is the perfect example of how susceptible and gullible you are. And I think you're right. Although I'm not going to give them a pass because they still voted for somebody who raped a woman, who's, bragged about having sex in common with his daughter, who's a 34-time convicted felon, etc. But you're right. There's a reckoning coming. And on that topic, I wanted to address this really quickly. This was reported by the Military Times. Because we know that, again, back to the deep state and back to the distraction, Vivek and Elon in charge of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, one of the areas that they are talking about cutting is money spent to the VA because it has to do with appropriations. So there are certain appropriations budgets that just roll over without congressional approval every year. And they decided that, one, to keep the VA funded so it doesn't become political, so that we're not denying veterans who served our country honorably medical treatment, care to mental health care and whatever else, that is one of the areas that they want to put on the chopping block. They say no government agency should be subject to appropriations. Okay, if that's the decision you're going to make, then veterans, buckle up. Buckle up when they take your funding away. That's not coming from the left. So don't sit here and tell us again that it's the left that doesn't care about veterans when you've got the commander-in-chief who've mocked you every single chance that they could get because he's jealous of your service. He doesn't respect you because he couldn't do the job. He thinks he's better than you. So you want to give Vivek and Elon the keys to your health care. And that, again, is it tens of billions of dollars of government contracts that Elon has, right, Felice? I think it's tens of billions.
He's the largest welfare queen in America. Like,
Exactly.
imagine. No, so I think this is the nicest way to put it. First of all, the Doge department is a fake apartment. These are billionaires, the richest man in the world, and a guy who defrauded Alzheimer's patients in a pump and dump scheme. Please understand that he defrauded Alzheimer's patients in a pump and dump scheme.
That's right.
These two who have government contracts and ethical conflicts everywhere, the largest welfare queen in the United States is Elon Musk, are going to decide about what government spending is wasteful. And I believe I heard Elon Musk, or it was Vivek Ramaswamy, they wrote in the Wall Street Journal, which is in today's outline in the Discord in the live sources section, an op-ed where they, talk about making them squeal. Who are you going to make squeal? Poor people? Who are you going to make squeal? Veterans when you cut their benefits? Is that who you're going to make squeal? You're going to make, in Texas, they're stopping reporting maternal mortality deaths. Are you going to make women squeal as they die, underfunded, black and brown women who are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth, and they're now officially covering up the unalivings? You're going to make them squeal? Meanwhile, somehow I have a feeling the Doge committee will not find Elon Musk's wealth, billions of dollars of government welfare that us, the taxpayers, are giving him as a problem. And I just want to give one more example of a conflict of interest for this Doge committee because I think it needs to be said. Elon Musk has long said, right, and Vivek is his little parrot, is this little weird parrot on his shoulder just saying whatever Elon Musk says. They have criticized the Infrastructure Act, the Chips and Science Act, and they've said Biden wants to wire, use companies like Google Fiber and things and wire poor rural communities for internet,
right,
for high-speed internet. And Elon Musk is saying in the news, we don't need that. Let's cancel that. We don't need to give billions of dollars of government contracts to have fiber cable wired to rural areas. We can use Starlink.
Right.
This is a satellite internet company
Exactly.
that this man owns. He wants to cancel the actual wiring of high-speed fiber cables to rural communities. And what you need to know about Starlink is every time someone joins, right, it has latency issues. People can't connect. He's allegedly giving internet to people in poor countries. It does not work.
Doesn't work.
Starlink does not work. And the government regulators, and understand this about the Doge Committee, when they talk about, the taxpayers are paying for government regulators, we need to deregulators. These are scientists. These are data scientists who did the research and said Starlink cannot bring internet to rural communities in America effectively. It does not work. We have to wire with fiber cables. That is the only way we can connect them, right? If you are in poverty, if you are lower middle class income, you have to have access to the internet. You have to. You cannot have upward mobility in society without access to the internet. And Elon Musk is trying to steal that contract with internet, satellite internet that does not work, so that he can profit.
Yeah, but that's not
the
corrupt.
Department of Government Efficiency. Oh, wait, one more thing. He calls it Doge. Please know that one of the value of Tesla, they don't make money, right?
No.
They don't make money in the way you think they do. They're subsidized by our American tax dollars, but
Correct.
Some of the actual holdings that Tesla has, it's primarily in Dogecoin.
Exactly.
This is a tongue-in-cheek. He's saying, dumbass
coincidence.
Americans, they don't know what I'm doing. He regularly manipulates cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, right, in order to raise Tesla stock.
Right.
He named the Department of Government Efficiency after a cryptocurrency he artificially manipulates regularly to artificially manipulate Tesla's stock. He is laughing at Americans.
But nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. The distraction is the point, though.
Exactly.
Elon Musk will fix everything.
Good morning, friend. Good to see you. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Good to see you as well. Good to see you, Felice. Love listening to you. But yeah, it like the other thing people don't necessarily realize with respect to crypto, that's money laundering as well. There is no need to. There's no oversight. So when we start talking about regulations, and it's basically them saying we want to get rid of the rules for us, and then you guys pay for it. But no, I wanted to ask because I was driving and I've got to my appointment, so I want to ask this question. Did you say Dinesh D'Souza is up for something?
No, Dinesh D'Souza came out publicly on X and criticized Joe Biden for pardoning Hunter.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Dinesh is a felon. You know, he's a hardcore felon, so
Exactly.
I'm sure he's jealous that he didn't get a pardon.
No, he did.
You know, he runs off the idea that he went to prison, like he went to jail and then you were on house arrest, buddy.
Well, he got pardoned, though. That's the ironic part about it. He got it.
I know,
Trump.
But my thing is, like, he acts like he served time.
Yeah.
You know, this ridiculous thing. Like, anyway.
With his steel cup on the bars, right? Yeah.
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 I had to sit through some of those stupid movies. But yeah, I can attest to the Starlink thing because when I travel and I have to use it based off of where I am, I tried to just do things like check my email, and it was bad. It was really
There's
bad.
a man in the comments who is very uneducated on Starlink. Nick, no, Starlink will not work for rural areas in America. They have done, data scientists have studied this. That's why the regulators have denied Starlink the contract. You are wrong. The only answer for rural America is, in fact,
fiber.
Google fiber wire, fiber cables. That is the truth. You can read the studies yourself. They are available. And in rural, Elon Musk enters third world countries and sells EVs, and then tries to say, hey, if you want the prices low on my EVs, then you tack on Starlink, right? Brazil's fighting him on that, right? There are countries who are like, no, get your weird Starlink out of here. But it does not work.
There was reporting.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say with Mexico and Carlos Slim, when he was setting up the internet there, that they had the same issues where he had a monopoly on the internet and on the service providers to where he made billions off of this. And now the nation actually owns the internet and communications, things like that. It has improved significantly since it has been taken over. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say taken over. Since it has been incorporated by the government as a utility. But yeah, I just wanted to jump out I'm going to jump out and go to my appointment as a veteran who's going to be affected by MAGA and all their wonderful cuts that they're planning on. I full-fledged have no problem telling the MAGA to go fuck themselves if they want to say thank you for your service, because I will ask them, who did you vote for? And if they say Trump, I will say, well, you fucked me, so fuck you. So, because the thing that people don't realize about the VA is the VA healthcare that's available has been undercut under every Republican. And I'm saying, since Iraq, it's definitely been cut more. But George Bush didn't approach it. Trump didn't do anything. He likes to take credit for the choice program. The choice program was started under Obama.
Right.
I was there. Like, I was at the hospital when he was having discussions with Kirsten Sinema and I think, oh God, what was the guy's name? Jeff Flake. I was there at the hospital when they were having those discussions. I wasn't in the room, obviously, but I was there. This was 24. Oh, teddy bear. Oh my God, I'm distracted. But the idea that whenever you have a Democratic or a left-leaning candidate or elected official, they will address those issues that, in all honesty, have been ignored because people want to go ahead and say, we love our veterans, love our veterans, love our veterans, but you don't want to take care of your veterans at all. And if they move to privatize the VA, which they're already doing, and they've been doing with the contracts that they've been, and the subcontracting they've been doing. Because one of the hospitals I go to locally is not a VA hospital. It is a VA as far as it has the name on the side of the building, but it's contracted out. It's privatized. Still still get good health care. But the issue is they have quotas they have to meet because they are contracted out, because of the company that they work for. I think within a month, doctors had to see like 1,500 patients. It was some ridiculous number that they had, that they had to meet all these people. You cannot get good care if you turn healthcare into a business.
Right.
If you turn it into, we need to get X amount of people in through these doors, you're not going to get good healthcare. So when you have veterans complaining about healthcare, what we're really complaining about is the lack of providers in those hospitals, lack of specialists, the lack of people that are willing to stay longer than whatever they agreed upon, whatever it was to help relieve loans or a grant or whatever it happened to be. Because I had a podiatrist that was there for 2 years because her commitment was 2 years in order to get enough money to start her own practice. And enough, the grants get, but anyway, what they do is they undercut us so much, with respect to healthcare. And I'm saying those MAGA voters, that they love to talk about how much they love us, but they don't show it. Because the VA should be overfunded, just like education should be overfunded. The amount of money that Trump is talking about giving to the Defense Department is scary, because when you appoint a buddy of yours who's already into money laundering to head up the Navy, what do you think he's going to do with any of those military contracts? Like there are going to be some kickbacks. There's going to be a lot of defense contractors that are suddenly going to get some really. We're going to revisit the Halliburton days. Is really what we're going to end up doing. No bid contracts, preferential contracts that are going to be given out. And then as the vets start to dwindle away because, slowly unaliving, right? Or we're not getting the treatment, we're out on the street, or we're suffering in silence, or we happen to suffer and become one of those 22 a day, people will not address the issue. What they will do is they will talk about what is happening, but provide no solutions. They will say, we lose X amount of veterans per day. We have X amount of veterans who are on, 6-month wait list or whatever. But they won't address what needs to be done, which is funding it, adding people. And it's the same thing when you see education as well as immigration, solving the immigration crisis. It's going to require money and people. It is not going to require some blowhard going up and yelling about, the illegals are coming in and they're taking over and eating cats and, whatever the nonsense is going on. Because they had to be shamed into coming to the table for the PACT Act. Let's think about that, for example, right? Something as simple as extending benefits for vets exposed to burn pit exposure. And they had to be shamed into it. I've known people who've done it, and people think it's like, oh, you're burning trash or it's what, because they don't know. It's diesel, it's human waste, it's other stuff, and they're out there with no protection. If you've ever watched the movie, oh my God, Jarhead with Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh, yeah. There's that one scene where he's burnt. That's what the burn pits are. It's diesel fuel and human waste that you're burning off, and you're ingesting and inhaling that stuff. Those folks should have 150% disability as far as I'm concerned, because there's so many ways in which that is going to negatively impact your body. But anyway, I got to jump out of here. I'll try and jump on again later. I got to go into a doctor's appointment while I still have them through the VA.
Thank you for your service, friend. I appreciate you very much. I'm not MAGA.
No. I'm saying you don't get to say it either.
Okay.
I love you.
Appreciate you, buddy.
I don't need you to thank me.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
You thank me. Here's the thing. You thank me by educating people on information and educating people about how to better this situation. You don't need to thank me at all.
Appreciate that, friend. Be safe out there, okay?
And I love the color up here, and I love the color up here.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.
All right.
See you later.
Love you.
Have a good day. Be safe. That's awesome. I want to just call out Nick for a second. Nick needs some attention, so we'll give Nick some attention. Nick, it's not about whether or not your kids had internet access through Starlink during the pandemic. It's about, this is the entire plan. This Felice just broke it down, is this government efficiency organization that's not connected with the government, therefore not subjected to congressional oversight, by the way. They want to do away with infrastructure elements wiring America in favor of his business, Starlink, so that he can get richer on your back, Nick. Do you get it? Probably not. Anywho. Everybody,
well, Nick's in Canada, so of course he doesn't get it. And again, the infrastructure bill is paying for the fiber wires to be laid, and
Correct.
They're government contracted. So you have no idea what you're talking about. You tell us an anecdotal story about your children to pull at our heartstrings. You basically just pulled a Fox News on us. Like, we are talking about the richest man in the world. Right? We know scientifically for rural areas, the best is for us to lay fiber cables. Correct. That is the fastest internet available. We are paying for it through the infrastructure bill. And you're telling us, hey, because my kids had access to Starlink during the pandemic, you guys should have less good internet. You guys should have shitty internet in rural areas and give government contracts that actually should be given to the best form, the highest, the fastest speed of internet. That's who should win the government contract. That would be fair. To a crony capitalism situation, to the richest man in the world.
Right.
That's what you just said to us.
Right.
Please do not insult our intelligence. Now, again, Starlink's good for emergency situations.
Sure.
I'm glad during the pandemic your children had access to Starlink. That is great news. I'm glad during wartime, that Starlink can be moved over areas where the access to the internet has been blown up, right? And then in wartime, people have access to communicate with families. I'm glad for all those things. That has nothing to do with what's best for rural communities in America. That does not mean through crony capitalism, we give the richest man in the world to run shitty satellite internet to rural communities when we know that fiber cables are better.
Wasn't there at one point there was reporting, and I might be wrong about this, but wasn't Musk threatening to move Starlink over during the Ukraine war because he didn't like the way the politicization was going, meaning that he was going to deny Ukrainian soldiers the ability to communicate because he had a hair across his ass about something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, he did that. Well, no, like he did that, but the more egregious thing that he did, right? This is a private citizen, the richest man in the world, who's now sitting in the White House with our president, is going to decide who has billions of dollars of government welfare. You're welcome for Starlink, Nick. Our taxpayer dollars funded the creation of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was us. You're arguing with us. You have it because of us. What happened was Xi Jinping, right, reached out to Elon Musk, Putin reached out to Elon Musk Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping says, hey, your ally, Taiwan, who's providing all of your microchips until the Chips and Science Act takes hold, and then we produce 20% of the world's microchips, which Trump says he's going to undo, by the way. We shall see. But the only way our technology works is through the preservation of Taiwan as an independent state. And through Putin contacting Elon Musk, he said, my friend Xi Jinping, because they are in league together, doesn't want you to move Starlink over Taiwan, wants you to cut off access to the internet while China terrorizes Taiwan. And he did it. Yep. He did it.
Yeah.
That's Elon Musk. That's our ally. Taiwan's our ally. He also threatened Ukraine. That's our ally.
MAGA, you're not going to be a billionaire. Okay, you're not. It's not going to happen. I mean, he sold you this fantasy that you think you're going to be a billionaire someday. His company was just recently valued at over $1 trillion. And you think that all of a sudden he's going to be altruistic and generous. I mean, again, the model that we just described, and I really appreciate the way you broke it down. The infrastructure bill was designed to wire America. I live in a state where the geography is impacting access to the internet. There are schools in our state that struggle just because of where they're located, like in a valley with steep peaks. It's hard to get service in there. So part of infrastructure investment not only employed tens of, not hundreds of thousands of Americas to lay cable, to build out the grid. All these kinds of things are so valuable. Now, this person, Elon Musk, by the way, who's been threatening mayors in our country, he's a private citizen until January 20th. So a private citizen going on his platform and threatening Americans that they break the law. That's one thing. Anyway, that's a different conversation. He's going to benefit from the government contracts. The person put in charge of government contracts, the person put in charge of, ferreting out inefficiency in government and overspending and excess spending, he is going to benefit from government contracts to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. And you don't care because your kid had access to the internet during COVID. I mean, come on. Come on. Yeah, he said this recently.
Those who break the law. Math in, Nick. And also, you're not from America. So your tax dollars didn't pay. We paid for Elon Musk's companies.
That's right.
We paid for the R&D.
Those who break the law will be arrested, and that includes mayors. He's a private citizen. He has no influence on law enforcement. So he is a private citizen until January 20th. And the whole...
Who? Are you talking about Elon Musk or Trump?
Said this.
Elon Musk will be a private citizen also on January 20th.
Agreed, because this
Department
is not
of
a government
Efficiency is not real. What it is it's like a commission, right?
Exactly.
You can have you can establish a commission and say do some research and make recommendations. Yeah, he will always be a private citizen because he won't divest from his companies.
Exactly.
And that's another thing. The distraction is, think of all the airways have been flooded with shit. Is Trump even going to pretend to put his stuff in a blind trust?
Of course not.
No, which is still ethically wrong. Blind trusts aren't even, you're supposed to divest from your companies. It's not, blind trusts aren't even, what Trump did the first time was ethically and possibly illegal, right? We could debate that. Lawyers debate it. But Trump isn't even pretending this time. Not only Trump, but all his cabinet members.
Exactly. And the whole point of Doge, my whole point of this whole thing, to your point earlier, it sits outside of the government, therefore not subjected to congressional approval, because every agency in our government has oversight, has congressional oversight. So you don't appoint Musk and Vivek as official government employees, therefore they don't need Senate confirmation, or it's not a cabinet position. And this entire agency exists outside of the government, thus not subjected to oversight. So they can do whatever the fuck they want to do. Literally, I mean, for the party that talks about small government, for the party that talks about law and order, for the party that wants government transparency, you are literally signing up for the exact opposite. No transparency, massive investment, big government, and complete control of dollars and cents every single day. Make it make sense. Anyway, everybody keep tapping and sharing. We're kind of hovering at 2:20. I think we should do mod announcements. If anybody wants to jump in and do mod announcements real quick, I appreciate that. But this is I've talked about this before, about the fundamental difference between right and left voters, conservatives and liberals. Conservatives, by and large, and the right wing tend to vote for themselves. My kids' internet, my pocket, my wallet, my liberties, my freedoms. Whereas the left, by and large, votes for other people. We see a greater good. We see a larger opportunity to make everyone in our society better, starting with marginalized groups, because we know that the impact of late-stage capitalism affects marginalized communities significantly more than anyone else. It always has. So that's why when we talk about, we need the system to fail for MAGA to realize what they voted for, sadly, women, LGBTQIA, BIPOC community, people that are on the bottom of our capitalism spectrum anyway, are all going to feel it the hardest. So I don't want them to hurt any more than they do, because I'm so tired of seeing people suffer. But that may be what it takes. That may be what it takes. It may take the entire system to crumble and prices to go up, and massive inflation, if not depression, or serious recession to impact the price of gas, to impact the price of eggs, for them to realize it. All these liberties and freedoms that they claim they have are being taken away. Again, thus the distraction.
Yeah, I'll say it like this, and I see it like this. I mean, that's why you'll hear me say, I do think there's a lot of people that have essentially been fooled by Donald Trump in a way, but or fooled by themselves, fooled by their own ability to critically think and to do a Google search. I think that the reality of the situation is, and this is how I see it, because I recognize that it's true. We are all in the same lifeboat. Unless you are the donor class, Unless you are a billionaire, unless you are the 1%, we are all in the same lifeboat together. I am in the same lifeboat with MAGA, and our survival, right, from not being turned into just slave labor in capitalism is about convincing enough of the people on the right that we're all being robbed by the same people, right? Capitalism is a sine wave. Boom, bust, boom, bust. The busts don't happen on accident. They force the busts. Who benefits during the bust when we lose, we go bankrupt, and the transfers of the largest transfers of wealth in history, like in 2008, go up, right? They bank on the bust, and the capitalists, if you have raw capital during the bust, you benefit, right? That is the point, right? It's trickle-up economics. It doesn't lie. This is trackable.
Yeah.
And you, MAGA, me, everyone, it doesn't matter if you think you're on the team of Donald Trump. You are being robbed by Donald Trump every single day. You are being robbed by Elon Musk every single day. If you don't realize it, it does not mean that it's not happening. And I heard this analogy, and I'm just going to use it. Like, they call it Club 47. Those are the billionaire class donors that hang out at Mar-a-Lago and never leave. You know, they just hold court. They lobby for influence by giving Donald Trump millions of dollars. They are robbing us all in real time. And I liken it like a club, right? When we all used to hang out at the club. And MAGA is like the people outside the club in line, right? Who think Donald Trump has this secret, right? Like, he knows something. He said he's going to fix this. And then I'm not, my wages are going to go up. I'm not going to suffer. And MAGA is like, they're confused. They're angry. They know something is wrong, right? They know they're being robbed by someone, right? They misidentify it as the Jews or, you know what I mean?
Immigrants.
Now, somehow they think the poorest people in America who are helping them by paying into Social Security and working for less than nothing, they're like, it's the brown people. I figured it out. The brown people are robbing me. I've got to do something about those brown people. And all Trump and his friends inside the club, in VIP, are doing is feeding you another lie. Oh, it's the immigrants. Don't worry. Meanwhile, they are laughing at you. You are outside in line at the club thinking, he's going to give me the secret. It's all going to work out for me. It's them. They are robbing you. And my survival, because I'm in the same lifeboat, we are all in the same lifeboat, depends on convincing enough of MAGA that they are actually being robbed by the people that keep lying and saying they're helping them. That is the reality.
I've got the best quote. AD, thank you for coming up. Amy Dunn's just going to do some mod announcements for us. Thank you for being here, friend.
Of course, my friend. Hello, beautiful people. Felice, we adore you. Thank you for being with us today. And, Steve, we love you too, but we collectively in our mod chat all have a crush on Felice's brain. So
I get it. I'm with you.
Also her beautiful smile. So thank you for being here. What better way to start the week than Fax and Felice on a Monday, friends? So what we really need you to do, though, is get your fingers working. I know it's a busy Monday, but please multitask and tap that screen. We've been hovering right around 2, a little bit above 2, and we've been doing this for we're going on 2 hours now. So sitting at about 1.2K, we should all be able to power tap for about 60 seconds. Let's push this live over 500. These folks are telling everybody what we need to hear. We need this education. Felice, and I know Steve puts a lot of work in, but Olympic level work that I know, Felice, you put into your outlines. You are amazing. Your brain is amazing. And we love all this information. And this information is helping all of us have better conversations, right? Because it's all about helping people understand when they've been lied to so they can figure out how to do this whole shit show that we're doing, right? As a country. So thank you both for being here. Let's tap that little heart right by Fax's name. That'll push us to They Have YP. The little share button down at the bottom lower right-hand corner. Even if you hit copy link, that counts as a share. So please do that. Please gift. This is hard work. I know the effort that gets put into these, giving this free information on this platform. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So show whatever love you can by interacting with the live, tapping the screen, sharing it. If you have a few coins, gift the panel, gift folks that come up. Interaction is wonderful. And we appreciate you all for choosing to spend your time with us. We know there's lots of choices here on TikTok, so thanks for being here. Please consider joining our Discord. Both Felice and Fax have a Discord, and both of them are great. Felice puts her outlines in her Discord. So much information. We have a great time in our Discord. Lots of support, lots of sources as well. So yeah, appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for interacting, and tippity tap like skippity pap. Get it done. Thank you.
Adine.
Love y'all.
Appreciate you. To your point, Felice, I found this great quote. Somebody said, this person, I'll give them credit, at Gay Black Vet on Twitter. They say you're in a room with 400 people. 36 don't have health care. 48 live in poverty. 85 are illiterate. 90 have untreated mental health illnesses. And every day, at least one person is shot. But 2 are trans. So you decide ruining their lives is the priority.
Make it make sense.
That's
how
the world
could
we
it
live in.
be that your enemies are the people that have less, that are more susceptible to being assaulted, that are more susceptible to SA, that are more susceptible to being marginalized, that are, oh God, I was just reading the homeless stats, that are by and large actually unhoused. The trans community is actually unhoused. These are people barely surviving in society.
Wow. What was that?
Thanks, Wolverine. You're the best.
Awesome. That was
Love
sweet.
I know.
Somebody wanted me to repeat that.
Gee.
Yeah, so this was just
awesome.
a person making the statement. They say you're in a room with 400 people, 36 don't have health care, 48 live in poverty, 85 are illiterate, 90 have untreated mental health issues, and every day at least one person is shot. But 2 are trans, so you decide ruining their lives is the priority.
Imagine that. Imagine being Republicans' full-time job is punching down while saying, hey, if I just lift up the billionaires that have everything more, if I don't make them pay taxes, if I don't make their companies pay taxes, will they give me something so I can survive? Right? Capitalism is about choosing a billionaire, right? Choosing a corporation and selling your body, selling your mental power back to them for the right to have health care. We are the only we have the number 1 gross domestic product in the world, the only country that our ability to go to the doctor is tied to our slave labor.
Correct.
Imagine that. And MAGA has convinced themselves, hey, it's the immigrants who are working for less than me. They're the problem, right? It's not. The very obvious answer is, hey, we should regulate and make billionaires, make corporations pay living wages to us all. That's what a sane person would say.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamental nature of that statement, like we just talked about how there's people that are genuinely suffering in our country, and there are so many things that we could fix. And the sad part about it is that so many of MAGA voters fall into those categories. You know, undereducated, living at the poverty line or below, mental health issues, substance use disorder, all these kinds of things, and yet they continue to simp for billionaires. And it's, again, to the point of the theme of today's show, the deep state and distractions, but yet it's the immigrants that they go after. It's the LGBTQA community that they go after.
The people fortunate that
Exactly. Thank you, Wolverine. I mean, that's the weird part about this whole thing. It's the people that have less than they do, and they don't have much. They will punch down to them. So this is the goal. You're cheering for corporate tax cuts. You're cheering for the richest man in the world whose company was just valued at $1 trillion. $1 trillion. You're cheering for him to implement government efficiency while he's going to expand his wealth at your expense. You cheer
people
when
are
we
paying
hand out
effective tax rates of like 6%.
Exactly. There's a subway guys going on right now, if you wouldn't mind. Exactly. You're cheering for those. Exactly the wave. You're cheering for those people. The cabinet that's lined with corruption. People that have been pardoned for their crimes. People that have taken advantage of the working poor for decades to build their wealth. And you cheer for them. You cheer for people who don't want you to be insured. You cheer for people who want to take away your union protections. We talk about the tenets of fascism. Cronyism is one of them, right? And then you're hiring people that are loyalists in your cabinet. That is the epitome of cronyism. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wait, can I just thank you, Joyce, for the Venmo? She said thank you. And then Stephanie, thank you so much for the Venmo as well. I really appreciate it, guys. That is so thoughtful and kind. And yeah, Venmo and Cash App is the best way to support creators, I think. Well, no, I also love gifts that are pretty.
But it is.
My ADHD does love gifts, I have to say, because they're
we get distracted.
Fun to look at. And people talking about my taillines, I'm part black. It's the melanin. That's how I have a And because I just want to speak to that beautiful thing you read, which if you would screenshot and said that to me,
sure,
because that's the reality of punching down, right? Like there are people who are literally illiterate who have untreated mental health issues. I mean, mine are treated now, but I was someone like that who moved through life with horrific mental health issues, who was raised by a malignant narcissist. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, like among other things, right? And you're asking me to survive in capitalism, to not display any signs of this. You won't give me health insurance. Mental therapy is very expensive. You're asking me to show no signs of the trauma I suffered when I was a child, when I was essayed, if I was raped, and to somehow sell my body to a corporation, never flinch, show up for work every day if I kind of want mental health insurance, to never buckle under the pressure of capitalism, and then saying, I'm the problem. 5 years ago, I almost died. I was the problem, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't working. That's my problem. That's the reality. You're blaming people who are barely surviving in the world and saying they are the problem, when the problem is very clearly follow the money.
Exactly.
The transfers of wealth are always going up. I promise you, the immigrants don't have your money. I promise you.
They don't. We can use any example. I mean, the quote was just someone's perspective on it, but it could be any scenario. You could have, 1,000 people in a room, and 600 wouldn't have health care, 150 wouldn't be educated, 94 would have substance use issue, 2 would be trans, and you want to pass laws and legislation to ruin their lives. That's the whole crux of that statement, right? It's the people that are suffering the most, including people that voted for Trump. People who voted for Trump are recipients of government subsidies, by and large. Red states receive more government subsidies and federal monies funded by blue states.
The most people on Medicaid, the most people receiving Medicare. Yes, these are the states. They're saying we're going to stop federal funding to blue states if they don't help us commit a mass deportation. Please understand, and this is just for MAGA who are listening, and I say this genuinely, I'm stuck in the same lifeboat as you. I do not mean this disrespectfully. I mean to just give you information. When we deport, which it's, by the way, just the cost of the deportation is going to be billions upon billions. It can't happen. We can't deport billions of people. Millions of people. It's too expensive. Just the logistics. The supply chain of deportation is too expensive. And you will find that out. But if we did somehow come up with the billions and billions and billions, which what we gave to Ukraine will pale in comparison to what we're going to pay for that, we will bankrupt ourselves. We will bankrupt ourselves again because illegal immigrants, and you don't understand how the economy works, they are paying in to Social Security and Medicare. Right? ITTN numbers. They are paying in. Every day they work in the fields. Every day they clean hotel rooms. Every day they roof houses. Every day they carpet new construction. They are paying into our Social Security and Medicare, and they never take it back out. They are not citizens. They are paying into it. They are contributing billions of dollars to our Social Security and Medicare. If we pull out 10 million people paying into Medicare, who are never taking the money back out. It's our money for free. You tell me what happens to your Social Security benefits. You tell me.
That's exactly right. Talk about the distraction. Think about that for a second, right? So the tariffs, for example, right? So we talk about the tariffs, and then we talk about mass deportation. We don't have the labor force to do what MAGA thinks that they would like us to do. We do not have first of all, we're a sophisticated society when it comes to things like that. I don't think we want our manufacturing plants making widgets, making the supplies that help build the widget. We have unemployment at 4%. We don't have the labor force now to do what you've been told, you've been lied to about bringing all this domestic manufacturing home. We just don't do it. The reason that we have trade agreements is because we are a consumable society. We like stuff. We want to buy stuff cheap. We don't have the labor to support it. And you want to deport tens of millions of people. To Felice's point, 40% of our agriculture industry is made up of migrant workers, whether they be day workers or undocumented. And so you want to cripple the economy with tariffs, and then you want to make it worse by mass deporting. A distraction, because you're told that brown-skinned people are a threat to you. You're told that brown-skinned people are committing crimes. You'll tokenize, I won't even use her name because her family asked us not to. You'll tokenize people like that. And the reality is the corporate class, the oligarchs are laughing at you because you bought it. I want to read something real quick. Most people will know where this comes from. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. You know what that is, right?
Lady Liberty.
Yeah, it's the New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. That's the poem on Lady Liberty.
Yeah, your refuse, your exiled, your huddled masses. That's who we are as Americans, right? But only the Europeans. Only the Europeans.
The distraction, right? This is part of it. It seems so obvious to us because we've been talking about doing this particular topic for a while, but it seems so obvious to me for so long, and you described it very, very well, as you always do. It's the punching down to people who have less.
Every time.
But those people care more about you than you care about them, and you're constantly demonizing them. Constantly. Through lies, through rhetoric, through hate. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what marginalized group. People who look like me built the system to benefit people who look like me. And you're the ones that take advantage of corporate welfare, or I should say welfare and subsidized programs more than any other class in our country. White people in America are the biggest, aside from the corporate class, are the biggest recipients of government subsidies. Period.
It is. It's white people. Surprise. It's white people in southern states. Surprise.
Yeah.
And imagine saying, if blue states protect immigrants in any way, you're going to defund them federally, when the truth is that the majority of blue states, let's take Gavin Newsom, which I think is a great example, is they are actually funding, I believe California is 20% of the welfare states, right? The southern states are not revenue positive. They do not pay for themselves. California pays for them, right? And other blue states, blue states are supporting red states. So no, it doesn't, you're threatening Medicaid dollars and things like that, which we talked about, right? Greg Abbott, know that they put a citizenship box on hospital forms,
right?
Which you don't have to legally check to get care, right? Because of EMTAL, you don't have to check a citizenship box. And a doctor made the mistake, I believe in Houston, of saying, you don't have to check that box, right? You're asking, you don't have to check if you're not a citizen or not. You don't have to answer that. And Greg Abbott said, we will defund hospitals. We'll take Medicaid funding from hospitals. They will punish women who are trying to have babies. They will punish children for not being born in this country. We will take poor children, poor women, poor people's Medicaid funding away from hospitals so they have nowhere to turn. If you don't check that, if you don't say you're not a citizen, so we can get rid of your contribution to the United States.
Yeah, but protect the kids, right, Felice?
Yeah, we're protected. But Republicans love the kids.
Yeah, love the kids.
They love women.
Hi, Tony.
It makes sense.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, Steve. How are you two this morning?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
So this is kind of off topic from what you guys were talking about, but with Biden pardoning his son, MAGA has come out and said, well, Biden's corrupt, the Dems are corrupt, the libtards are corrupt. So I guess I want to pose the question, if felons can't vote, why the fuck did we elect one as a president?
Because our country is inherently misogynistic, racist, uneducated, and the right-wing echo chamber tapped into white boy rage.
Yeah. So my question to you two is, with his felony charges being tabled for now, can they still get his ass when the presidency's over?
Yeah, without prejudice. That was very specific. I went back and forth on this whole thing with Jack Smith, like maybe just wait, force Trump to fire him. But I'm thinking, no, you do it now, you control the narrative, because by dismissing the cases without prejudice means that the evidence is still sufficient. The grand jury's findings were still real. We're not going to be subjected to this being just thrown away as this political witch hunt. So when he is out of office, no longer protected by the presidency, which is a whole other conversation I'd like to have, then yes, he is subjected to the continuation of his trials.
That's what I was.
Can I say something really quick?
Sure.
Wait, a couple of things you said. Felons can vote. So, and first
It depends
of all,
on the state,
okay.
It
depends. It's by state. Trump voted at this election. It depends.
Yeah.
Like if you're convicted as a felon in New York, it defers. Trump, he's a citizen of Florida. It defers to the laws in the state you actually are a citizen. Okay. And Trump can vote, and felons should be able to vote. I just want to say, I don't want to demonize felons.
Same.
We have an overly prejudicial justice system that disproportionately targets people of color. Yeah, that disproportionately targets people of color. So we absolutely need to move for more clemency and leniency on felons voting. We need to stop demonizing felons, because the people that are being convicted are there. We have people in jail for 20 years for having the devil's lettuce who have been labeled as felons. So I actually do hope that Donald Trump becoming a felon brings people to see that not all felons need to be demonized. There needs to be a path back to restorative justice, not punitive justice. We have, before Bukele in El Salvador imprisoned 75% of his country, we used to have the largest percentage of the world's prisoners. But thanks to Bukele, that's actually no longer true, because 75% of El Salvador seems to have disappeared and is somewhere in prisons. But we have a huge percentage of prisoners. So I just want to say, let's not demonize prisoners. But as far as the next thing you were talking about with what will or will not happen to Trump is a felon. Yeah. Right? I just want to be clear. Not pardonable. Yeah. In New York, in the state of New York, he cannot pardon himself, right? Letitia James, my God, my spirit animal, is 3-0 against Donald Trump, right? Against Trump companies, against Donald Trump, the felon, right? And people like Robbie Kaplan, the lawyer that went after Trump and held him accountable for what he did to E. Jean Carroll. Donald Trump is an adjudicated rapist. Yes. These things will not change. Now, Donald Trump is sending letters, right? Donald Trump's lawyers are sending letters to Letitia James saying, for the good of the American people, you need to vacate the $450 million fraud judgment against Trump, which, by the way, it's not a judgment, right? It's engorgement. Trump stole $450 million from the people of the state of New York. And all Letitia James did, and Judge Engeron, who actually did the mathematical calculations, if you read the judgment, calculated how much money he defrauded the people of the state of New York of and asked him to pay it back. Right? And Trump is saying, I've been mandated by the American people. All my fraud should be vacated. They're not. Trump is a felon in the state of New York. He cannot pardon himself, and nothing is going to change that. The federal cases are different, and could they be brought again? Yeah. Jack Smith has a target on his back wherever he goes. I think that he had to dismiss the cases so they can be brought again. Like once Judge Cannon got involved and did what she did, like they made it impossible for Jack Smith to move forward. So yeah, I think he's doing the best he can. But Trump is a felon and will be a felon as a president. But again,
real quick,
I don't.
For those of you that are dog owners, you know that sound that dogs make when they're about to get sick. That's what I just heard outside my door.
No.
So that's where I ran to. So anyway, but that's fine. So I didn't mean to sidetrack the conversation, but it's not a pleasant sound. It's not like birds tweeting or the wind blowing. Yeah. Sorry.
I do want to say I apologize. I'm not. So obviously, I just inherently knew not to vote for fucking Trump. But I haven't really been super educated, and I acknowledge that that's white privilege. But I haven't been super educated on, like, for example, the felon stuff. So I do apologize. I wasn't trying to be discriminatory or anything.
You're good.
Okay. So thank you for educating me. That is it pronounced Felice?
Yes.
Okay, it's a beautiful name. Thank you for educating me on that. So I guess I'm just hoping that at the end of the 4 years, karma really comes for him.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair. And thanks for jumping in today, Tiny. I appreciate you very much. You have a good day.
Thank you. You
See
too.
you later.
Can I just say one thing about karma, though? Like, I was raised by a malignant narcissist, and you'll hear me say this. I'll say this over and over and over on my lives. Malignant narcissists do not stop unless you stop them. Trump will not stop unless we stop him.
Exactly.
He will never stop. He will never stop coming, or unless he just accidentally the McDonald's catches up to him, which we can't wait for. Right? He is not going to stop unless we stop him. How many years have we been sitting here saying, oh, karma's going to get him, or don't worry, the Republicans will stop him, or oh, he's going to get convicted. He is not going to stop unless we stop him.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And to me, the most frustrating part about his win was that he gets to avoid the ultimate accountability, at least in the short term, right? I know we just discussed the cast. Again, it was a strategic move to have these cases dismissed without prejudice. That would be, as you just described, that would mean he's subjected to the cases continuing once out of office. But so part of the conspiracy that you hear coming from various channels, like I'm a reader, I know you're a reader, Felice, and I think we may have talked about this, but part of this conspiracy is that even the donor class, even the people that are pulling the strings, the Heritage Foundation, the authors of Project 2025, and these sort of right-wing deep state entities really don't want Trump at the helm. They want J.D. Vance. That's who they want. That's who they want because they can get another 4 years out of his policies. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised even internally if there's pressure to either invoke the 25th or to go through impeachment again. And don't be surprised if he gets removed from office. And then don't be surprised again if those cases come back on the radar and that he's thrown in jail. Because they don't want him in charge because he's an idiot. He is a malignant narcissist. Not that J.D. Vance isn't, but J.D. Vance is a hell of a lot smarter than Trump is. Well, that's not saying much. So these are the things that people are talking about within the circles about what would happen. Again, the distraction. People voted for Trump. They voted for him. They voted for his draw. They voted for his rhetoric, his hate. They don't, again, the distraction. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We're here to try to talk about it. Again, the simping for billionaires and the simping for Russia and Putin in general is just amazing to me. It's amazing to me that it happens that way.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, the Republican Party has always been missing a charismatic strongman, right? Like, and Trump, I don't like to call him a strongman because he's not a real strongman. We talked about it. Putin laughs in the face of Donald Trump. He's a useful idiot to, Donald Trump's a useful idiot to a real strongman. But
oh yeah,
Trump is a grifter, and I don't blame the American people. In time, like I said, MAGA's looking around. They're saying, "I know somebody is robbing me. Where is who is it?"
Right. Exactly.
Look at everywhere. Like, I gotta find. Is it George Soros? Is it the deep state? Somebody is robbing me. I'm sure of it. And all I know is Fox News is saying it's government spending. So if we, And understand that is the biggest fraud of all time. If we fire all the regulators, if we fire scientists, if we fire experts, if we fire people that are stopping huge corporate mergers, that are holding up antitrust laws, that are fighting billionaires who are trying to merge their businesses, so there's no competition in the market. The only way capitalism works is new competition can enter the market, right? And that's why Biden's DOJ, you hear Elon Musk talk about him, because Biden has, and Biden's regulators, Biden's the civil servants, you hear Elon Musk saying we need to get rid of. These are the only defense between us and billionaires and huge corporate mergers. So there's no competition in the market to lower prices anymore. Right? We saw deregulation means less bathroom breaks when you're at work, right? Lower wages. Donald Trump ran on, and I hear this in debates all the time, MAGA saying, I voted for Donald Trump because he said no tax on overtime. And I work a lot of overtime. Well, did you know that in Texas 2 weeks ago, a Trump-appointed federal judge banned overtime for the middle class and lower class nationwide, not just in Texas, don't you worry. But all these federal judges on the Fifth Circuit are auditioning to be on the Supreme Court.
Correct.
They're showing Trump, I'll carry water for you. So that's why you guys got fooled. Yeah, there's not going to be tax on overtime because you're not going to be getting overtime.
Because there's going to be no
Biden
overtime.
made it. Biden doesn't take credit for his accomplishments. Biden made it easier for people and protected overtime pay and made it easier for middle class and lower class people to get paid overtime. And Trump had one of his loyal judge appointees block it nationwide. Don't worry, there won't be tax on you're not getting any overtime. Surprise.
It's an example of pulling themselves up by the bootstrap, right? A lot of people work extra hours just because they depend on overtime, right? And now Project 2025 outlines it as well. They want to they want people to work more, but they don't want to pay them overtime. So this myth of no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, by the way, because of the Supreme Court ruling relatively recently, this particular session was that tips can be considered something entirely different. Could be a bribe, by the way, which Clarence Thomas. So all these scenarios that you think are really good policy, actually, if you peel the cover back, the deep state, you find out the truth. Do you know the name Scott Bessent? Felice?
Oh, don't get me. Oh, you mean George Soros? Like the hypocrisy of Scott Bessent.
Speaking of Soros, that's what reminded me of it. Yeah.
Is it Bessent or Bessent?
Bessent. So for those of you who don't know, Donald Trump has picked for his Treasury Secretary a George Soros protege. His name is Scott Bessent. Spent more than 2 decades as a top executive.
Soros was a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump say?
Spent more than 2 decades as a top executive at Soros' investment fund before leaving to forge his own path, eventually appealing to some of Trump's most ardent loyalists. So, MAGA, did you know that? Did you know that a Soros protege is going to be the Treasury Secretary? I bet you didn't know that, did you? Yeah.
And and it's interesting because, again, drain the swamp, right? No, Trump let Wall Street, again, his first term, when Trump promised you guys to drain the swamp, he just grew the size of government. He brought Wall Street into the Treasury in the form of, it was a Goldman Sachs guy. His name is escaping me now, but he brought a Goldman Sachs guy into the Treasury. Right. Now it's Scott Bessent, who learned at the feet of George Soros. George Soros has a very successful fund, right?
Yeah.
But Scott Bessent, actually, his fund, when he left George Soros, because George Soros is a successful person, actually his fund is failing. Trump picked a failing guy to now move into a failing Wall Street guy to Mnuchin. Thank you. God, exactly. Steve Mnuchin is the worst. Yeah, that was the first time he let Wall Street into the Treasury. Now he let Bessent into the Treasury. You know what Bessent is? He parrots Trump's thoughts on tariffs because he's a millionaire who doesn't. Again, tariffs are just, we're not going to tax corporations and we're not going to tax billionaires. Where do we get that revenue from? Hey, just every time Americans buy something, charge them extra on top of the yearly taxes that we pay. We're making up the revenue they're not going to levy from billionaires and corporations. And Bessent supports that.
Right, and the corporations are going to pressure test this, meaning that if it's a 25% tariff, they're going to see how much more than 25% they can mark it up. Not only will American consumers absorb the cost of the 25%, but it could be 28, 29. They'll continually jack up the prices a little bit because that money will go right to their bottom line. So again, here's the situation that you've bought into, MAGA, because you don't understand. And this is the question I want to ask. I saw a lot of tripping in the chat. The box is open for MAGA if you guys want to come up and talk to us about it. But if it's not tariffs, if you think tariffs are just a threat, okay, that's fine. Well, what if Mexican president said, bring it? Justin Trudeau, as soon as he stopped kissing the ring, said, bring it as well. If they're going to accept the fact that the tariffs are going to be implemented, there's going to be retaliatory tariffs. So what happens then? So this is why I've said time and time again, this is lose-lose. It's lose-lose for America if tariffs are implemented and the mass deportation happens, because it would cripple our economy in more than one way. We increase our debt because of corporate tax cuts. The deficit spirals out of control. Unemployment goes up. Inflation goes crazy. The markets crash. All these kinds of things. So that's lose. And it's also lose for you, MAGA, if none of those things get implemented, because he promised you this shit. He told you he was going to do all these things. So you lose. If you voted for Kamala Harris, you would have got a tax cut. If you voted for Kamala Harris, you would have an opportunity to buy into a new home, or to start a small business, or to have seniors have more access to pharmaceuticals, or a potential solution for gun violence, bringing back the assault weapons ban, things that worked in the past. So you lost, no matter what you say, you lost. But you couldn't bring yourself to vote for a black woman, sadly.
Well, Eva, well said. I think the other thing is, it's interesting. So think about the immigration problem, the threat of mass deportation. I think it was a reporter from the Detroit Free Press. I heard Trump very eloquently ask J.D. Vance this during a presser, say, hey, the birth rate is declining in Michigan, which that is true of America. The birth rate is declining everywhere, even in Mormonville, Utah, where they're like, your women's ability to go to heaven is dependent on how many children they reproduce. The birth rate is declining there. The birth rate is declining in America. The birth rate is declining in developed world. We used to think the birth rate was tied to just economics. If people could make enough money, they'd have as many children as they could support. But we know there's actual psychosocial tendencies, which is, hey, if women don't see a future for themselves, why would they relegate children to survive in America? Exactly. If women don't have bodily autonomy, why would they have a daughter? Why would they place a daughter in The Handmaid's Tale, right? Like, so as the birth rate declines, right, and this Detroit Free Press reporter said, we're finding a lot of success in Michigan with immigration, with work visas. Our declining birth rate, our workforce is dropping. The boomer population is retiring in droves. That was the largest cross-section of the American workforce. We are not replacing those people with children. And the Detroit Free Press said in Michigan, we've had a lot of success with immigration to supplement our workforce. If you say we can't use immigration to supplement our workforce, what is the answer? And you know what J.D. Vance did? They just started booing that reporter for asking the right question. The only future, and how America has survived and thrived, and how we have the #1 gross GDP is supplementing our workforce with immigration. And now we have authoritarian isolationists saying we're not doing that anymore. Then we all fail. Our economy fails. That's the reality. Immigration is the only hope of America.
Before we bring up Maisha, I want to talk just real quick. This is only 26 seconds on audio. It reminded me of something that Mike Johnson said specifically about the population decline in our country, and this is his approach to it.
Roe v. Wade gave constitutional cover to the elective killing of unborn children in America. Period. You think about the implications of that on the economy. We're all struggling here to cover the bases of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all the rest. If we had all those able-bodied workers in the economy, we wouldn't be going upside down and toppling over like this. Listen, I will not yield. I will not. Roe was a terrible corruption of America's constitutional jurisprudence.
So, in other words, ladies, you're like a labor force. You're like an employment agency. You're like an employment agency. Yeah,
we're incubators.
Maisha, how are you this morning? Thanks for being here. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm good. I'm the currently immigrant from Jamaica, as usual.
Yes.
It's funny how I woke up this morning to see the pardon of Hunter Biden by Joe Biden, and the comments are actually going a very positive turn despite what I think people would have been saying. So in my perspective, I'm like, okay, you're okay with pardoning Hunter Biden, but you are also okay with the voting for a felon. Okay, we see where the environment's going, but that's fine. I was happy for Hunter Biden, to be honest with you, because he was just a political pawn and nobody deserved to be pulled and poked and popped. So this weekend I took a trip to Fort Lauderdale, and I was just standing there on the, I don't know if you've ever been to Fort Lauderdale, on the strips of the beaches where you have like all the little huts and food villages and souvenir stores down by Hollywood Beach. And for a quick second, we felt like we were in like Mexico or somewhere nice and exotic, not in a bad way. It just felt like we took a stamp in our passport and we went out of the country. And then I looked at it and I'm like, hey, it's so funny how we have a lot of whitey people eating and drinking and taking shots and ringing bells on the beach and acting like they're on vacation. And these are the same whitey people who are voting for the people who are feeding you your margaritas and stuff to leave. Then I looked around and I said, half of these restaurants down here are just owned by Hispanic and immigrants. So then it occurred to me to say, is it that immigrants come here with a dream and a goal to help to develop this country and it becomes a problem, but not when you come down here to have margaritas and tacos and enjoy your life? So it really occurred to me that literally all the wait staff were immigrants, all the restaurants were owned by immigrants. We're the American people who are saying that the immigrants are taking their jobs. Why aren't they serving me tacos? Or why am I not having a hot dog and a burger? And why aren't they the ones who are down there giving out shots and margaritas? Why am I hearing ay caramba instead of let's go, dude? In my best American impersonation.
But those aren't those the black jobs though, Aisha, that Donald Trump's been referring to, that those jobs would be taken, right?
And it's funny, I'm not trying to play the race card, but I didn't even see any black people down there working either. Yep. It was all immigrants.
It's a great point.
So my thing is, you are so comfortable and you are so unbothered by people who are serving you tacos, picking your oranges, taking care of your children.
Right.
Because we are like the biggest parents in the world. Let's just be honest with ourselves, right?
It's true.
And we do everything for you. But when it comes down to just trying to live a decent life, it becomes a huge problem. Thanksgiving this week was like a whole bust. Let's just be honest. 90% of people did not go see their family. And in my household, I'm telling you, we have a checkbox at the door. How did you vote? If you vote this way, it was nice knowing you. You could have been our mom, or aunt, or cousin. You are not breaking bread in this house. You are not feeding from the fruits of labor in this house. Because my husband is an American, I'm an immigrant. I have a temporary green card. You are basically looking at him and telling him that, hey, I'll come and eat and drink, but if your wife's permanent green card don't get renewal, well, you could basically F off and you might have to move somewhere else and break up your family and figure out what to do with your kids. Because we do have kids and we do have a beautiful home, we do have a beautiful family. So, but I'll come eat your turkey and I'll have your stuffing and act like everything is okay. So we had a check card at the door. We're not doing it. We're just not breaking bread with the enemy, because you might think it was just an election, but it's an election that will break families apart, whether legal or illegal. A lot of people who are green card holders may never get citizenship because policies can change. A lot of people who have temporary green cards may not get permanent green cards because policies can change. And right now we're at the edge of our seats. We're unhappy. We're just going with the motion and seeing what happened, keeping our nose clean as per usual. But it's scary times. It's scary times for our kids. What do we tell them if one day they come home from school and say, "Oh, but my mommy don't even speed. My mommy don't even use the F word," but she's now in a thing because she tried the correct way, and at the end of the day, policies changed.
I appreciate you saying that, Misha, and you're right. I mean, this is the theme of today's show is the distraction. This is just another example, right? Again, punching down the people that are potentially going to suffer the most when these policy changes go into effect are the people that are blaming others, whether name a marginalized group. But thank you for jumping in today, Misha. I appreciate your friend as always. You have a good day.
Thank you.
You're amazing, Misha. Keep fighting the good fight.
Indeed. And as somebody who's been to Jamaica 6 times, I'm officially known as a Jamaican. I love that place. If I could live someplace else in the world, that would be there.
I want to say, so I want to present this argument, and let me just say it's a way to push back on the mass deportation, and it's another this unfortunately just people like Misha, good hardworking people who keep their nose clean. By the way, I'm just saying statistically, I'm not MAGA fear mongering. I'm talking about statistical correlations. If you want to be safest, move to a neighborhood of immigrants. That's where the least crime is. They're the least likely to be, they're I think 60% less likely to be incarcerated than the black community, who is unfairly incarcerated, 30% less likely to be incarcerated than white men in this country. You want to be safe, move to a neighborhood of immigrants. That's the truth. There's no statistical correlation between immigration and crime, period. That's the truth. You were lied to, MAGA. You were shown isolated incidences of horrible crimes. Mm-hmm. But is there a statistical correlation? No. Women are still in more danger from white men. Surprise! Surprise! Still in more danger from white American men born right here. Those are the facts of the case. And I want to say, the idea of states' rights, brother, that's America. What states' rights. This is about states' rights. And that was originally about what? Slavery, racism. Exactly. The South not wanting to give up their slave labor workforce through the transatlantic slave trade by way of Jamaica. I'm sorry, Misha. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was states' rights, brother. That's when they started holding up government. If you don't know what happened in the South, they ground Washington, D.C. to a halt. They refused to vote in the Senate to try to protect the states' rights to slavery. So I'm suggesting we need to go back to states' rights, but we need to take it back, right? And that's what you're seeing these sanctuary state attorney generals do, right? Well, you guys use states' rights to defend slavery. You guys use states' rights to stop black and brown people from voting. You guys use states' rights to take women's bodily autonomy. And now we need to use states' rights to protect immigrants, right? And I wanted to read this because I thought it was really interesting. States can fight back. The threat of mass deportation of immigrants has caused widespread concern. Many governors are searching for a valid method to resist some of the more inhumane and legally questionable elements of this threat. My suggestion is that they create a state office of immigrants' rights. This office, staffed by qualified attorneys, either paid or pro bono, could help any immigrant fearing deportation. The office could examine all aspects of the federal exercise of immigration law, including whether the search and seizure of immigrants' homes or interference with their jobs are lawful, whether workplace seizures violate state laws, and whether immigrants are being denied due process. The Post reported that the Trump administration might try to ignore the citizenship of those born in America. This could be another source of judicial intervention. Federal regulations cannot place an undue burden on the exercise of a constitutional right. Thus, it could be argued that any deportation of parents of the citizen children must make reasonable accommodations, including deferring deportation of those with children under a certain age. And that was written. This is just a letter to the editor at Washington Post that I happen to be reading. And it's written by a Georgetown University law professor. And that's the truth. We need to turn states' rights, brother, on its head, right? You guys love states' rights when it was for slavery, when it was for disenfranchising the black and brown vote. Well, we need to get real familiar with states' rights. Abortion. To protect women, to protect women's bodily autonomy, to protect immigrants, to protect our economy from crashing, right? We need immigrants more than they need us. We will learn that lesson one way or another, and we need to protect them.
Two things on that, and I think there's a couple of things, and I'm desperate to try to get answers, because we talk about how, and this goes to the whole distraction thing, right? lies being told about the criminal element of immigrants, which we just know does not exist, and exponentially lower than U.S. born citizens, that people who look like me, and then the impact they have on our economy. They claim that it's a draw when it's not. There's never been a study that I've seen otherwise about the positive impact that immigrants have on our economy to the tune of billions of dollars. So in their mind, it's the removing of billions of dollars of money paid into our system just in taxes, never mind property, sales tax, retail purchases, but then the cost to deport these people, right? No one's been ever been able to explain to me how it would work. So what MAGA doesn't realize that the 14th Amendment identifies people in protection under the laws as persons, not citizens. Any person in our country is protected under the rights of the Constitution as they're outlined. So would you just knock on doors? Would you just drive down Main Street in unmarked vehicles and jump out with your ice patch and just walk up to a person and say, "Your papers, please"? Like, how would that work? How would it work? How would you justify violating a citizen's rights? Because remember, if you're pulled over for a traffic cop, there's got to be a reason for someone to pull you over. It can't just be, you don't have to show your identification. You're not forced to identify yourself under no circumstance. If you've committed a crime, and they can articulate what that crime was, then certainly we as citizens are subjected to those kinds of things. But unlawful search and seizure, Fourth Amendment protects us from that, right? So unless there's been a crime committed, how would you identify someone? What would you do? What would be the plan? And that's a question that they just will refuse to answer. Sure, please do.
Yeah, well, because this happened in Arizona. I'm from a border state where we did this. Does anyone remember Sheriff Joe? Pink underwear, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, SB 1070. We did this in Arizona.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional. We started going up to brown people. We deputized the sheriffs to just accost brown people who looked poor and be like, "Are you an illegal? Are you an illegal?" This happened already in Arizona. We did it. Do you want to know about Trump's pay for pardons? Sheriff Joe Arpaio was pardoned by Donald Trump. He paid for a pardon for accosting brown people in Arizona and other frauds. And then we passed Prop 314 again this year, which is something similar, but it depends on other cases being heard by the Supreme Court. I won't go into, but the point is the difference between 314 was there's no funding, right? There's no funding for 314. It's just our crazy MAGA state legislators saying we're deputizing police to stop people like they think might be illegal and charge them with, it's a misdemeanor, people, by the way. It's a misdemeanor. Sneaking into the country is a misdemeanor. Yep. And the reason we don't accost everyone who we think might be illegal is because once we identify them and they're entered into the court system, we have to give them something that you heard the Georgetown law professor mention called due process. Due process. We can't make them leave. Right? Now they get lawyers. Now they have rights. They have due process under American law, whether they are citizens or not. Right? And now we have to pay for them to have due process. You have to understand our broken immigration system and how it works. But yeah, we tried that in Arizona. It was called SB 1070, and it was declared unconstitutional. Donald Trump pardoned the guy, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who regularly shows up at Trump rallies and Trump calls a hero. Right? Eisenhower tried it. Operation, I'm going to say the opposite because it is a horrific slur against the Hispanic community, but of which I am also a part of. So I'll just say dry front. Dry front. Now think about what the opposite of that is. Operation Dry Front. That was something Eisenhower did, which Trump regularly references. Right? And says, we're going to do that again. The Mexican repatriation, we're going to round up Hispanic people. It is completely unconstitutional and delusional. And I would say his plan to use the American military, that is his plan, is also been unconstitutional for 100 years. And now I'm quoting one of the craziest people in the Republican Senate, Rand Paul, who has now This is what I'm saying. We have to let the Republican senators stand on actual business. Do you guys have any ethics? Rand Paul is a propagandist for Russia, but apparently Rand Paul knows it's unconstitutional to raise the American military and turn it on its citizens, and is now on Fox News regularly saying that. Hey, I want to deport brown people, but we can't raise up the American military and turn it on American citizens. That has been unconstitutional for 100 years. That's Trump's plan.
It is. Yeah, I mean, there's posse comitatus, there's the Insurrection Act, there's all these things, and that's what's concerned me the most. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, because within the executive branch, one thing that the executive does control that doesn't necessarily have to go through Congress is law enforcement. So, and then as the commander in chief, this is the problem when you have loyalists. When you fill your cabinet with loyalists and you fill your military with loyalists, somebody like Pete Hegseth, for example, who's already come out with anti-immigration rhetoric, ultimately, he's going to be part of a decision. He's going to be the one that's going to justify the use of the U.S. military on American soil to go after people here protected by the Constitution. This is the distraction that we've been telling you about. So if you get a knock on your door because you have brown skin, how are you going to respond, MAGA? Right? This is the fucking reality of what we're talking about here. How does it work? Somebody explain it to us. I've heard people say using the criminal justice system. Well, if somebody's here undocumented and they're in jail, they're going to get deported anyway. That already happens. That's no different. That happens now. But what about everybody else? If Felice is walking down the street, should she, because she has brown skin, should she be expected to have a tap on the shoulder?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the reality.
Can I throw something else at you that's going to blow your mind? I was, just doing way too much research. You know how they made Kristi Noem the governor of a non-border state? She's going to head up department. She's going to be the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, DHS.
Yeah. Do you know why? I mean, I want to scare you guys. Think how scary it is to raise the American military against American citizens. Imagine if I told you Kristi Noem not only raised the American military against American citizens, but used private billionaires' money to do it.
Of course.
Private billionaire money. Imagine if any billionaire in the country could raise our army because they were rich and use it to do whatever they want. That's what Kristi Noem did. She deployed the National Guard. She deployed National Guard troops, South Dakota National Guard troops, that their mandate is to protect South Dakota, right? She lied on the indigenous community. Pine Ridge is the second largest reservation in North America. They have several other reservations, but Pine Ridge is second only to the Navajo Nation in Arizona, right? Window Rock. She said Pine Ridge is an forward operating base for the cartel. That's how she justified deploying the National Guard to the southern border. She said, we're all border states now. Listen for Republicans to start saying this. And no one knows this, but a Tennessee billionaire funded the National Guard, raised the South Dakota National Guard with private money. Imagine the implications. And you know who said, uh-oh, this is bad? John, the golden boy, the man raised at the feet of Mitch McConnell. We know this through, again, Noah Bookbinder, who runs CREW, the Citizens for Renewed Ethics in Washington. This man is a genius and submits FOIA requests like his job. Right? He got the documents, which this is in today's outline under the Kristi Noem article. If you want to use this in debate or to talk about it, he got the documents. The first deployment of troops of the South Dakota National Guard was funded by a billionaire. John Thune said, uh-oh, you can't have, what are you guys doing? Why are private citizens raising our American military? Democrats freaked out. And they're like, we have billionaires raising the American military and turning it on possible American citizens at the border. That's what they did. Now they stopped. She did second and third deployments, and they changed the laws. The South Dakota state legislator, she can't do it anymore. But she tried. They tried to set a precedent that a billionaire could pay to raise the American military. That is the scariest thing that has ever happened in our country. And Donald Trump rewarded her by putting her in charge of the Department of Homeland Security.
Giving her a cabinet position. Everybody, if you love Felice, tap like crazy. Please gift her. Please get us to 400K. I appreciate that. I think what you just talked about is, so people like to use, well, he didn't do these things in his first 4 years. Well, that's because there were some adults in the room. Now, when you stack your cabinet with loyalists, a mandate of Project 2025, by the way, yes, people, doing away with the civil servants who are nonpartisan by nature. They're the ones that make the government work, replacing all those federal Schedule F employees with loyalists in his cabinet, loyalists up and down the judiciary, then there are no guardrails anymore. There are no guardrails. So Peter Thiel could have an issue with a liberal organization in Nevada, and all of a sudden the Nevada National Guard that goes in and takes out that liberal organization. We already know the Republicans want to fire woke Democrats in the military, again removing all guardrails. This is the distraction. This is what we've been saying, and for some reason you guys just are unwilling to accept the reality because you feel like it doesn't affect you. You feel like it's okay that we're taking away women's rights because you don't care about women. It's okay that we continue to marginalize the BIPOC community, the LGBTQA community, the infirmed, the poor, because you don't care about any of them either, even though you are taking advantage of government subsidies to the tune of billions of dollars paid for by people who live in blue states. Make it make sense. Those of you who are so... Your 2A, advocates, the people that only think the Second Amendment. You don't even know of its history. You don't even know that it was established based on the slave trade. Virginia farm owners were so concerned about the slave rebellion that they asked to be part of the militia so that they in turn could be armed. You don't know that. You think it's government tyranny. You think it's the big bad government. The government is the one that said, we're going to regulate the militia. It's a government militia based on slave owners. The
Well-regulated militia was states' rights, brother. The right to track down our black slaves that tried to escape and shoot them in the legs and drag them back and make an example of them, states' rights. But even that well-regulated militia never kept their weapons in their home, right?
Of course not.
They kept them at an armory. So if you think 2A has anything to do with your right to possess weapons in your home, it does not.
It does not.
It was about a well-regulated militia that kept their weapons at an armory to track down black slaves in the South and drag them back.
Exactly.
States' rights.
States' rights, brother. I love that. So this is why I hope you guys are appreciating this today, because this is what we've been wanting to talk about for a very long time. MAGA is the deep state. They are filling it with corporate cronies, which is a tenet of fascism. We can go down the list: ultra nationalism, supremacy of the military, again using the U.S. military to go after American citizens, the radical left, people that are woke, the enemy from within. All this. If you don't want to be associated with Yahtzees, then maybe don't be associated with Yahtzees. It's really simple. You don't want to be labeled as such. You don't want to be labeled as a racist. Don't align with racists. You don't want to be labeled as a bigot. That don't align with bigots. You don't want to be labeled as a misogynist and a simp and a grape apologist. Then maybe don't do those things. It's the reality of the circumstance. I don't give a flying fuck if you don't like to be labeled as such. Prove to me differently. Less being about it. Show me the difference. Show us that what you voted for is not what you want. Show us that you're not a racist by saying a mass deportation thing based on people's colors of their skin is going to cripple our economy. I made a mistake. Figure it out.
Vote with your feet. Yeah, no, amen. And it's so true. That's a great way to show it. Like, if you're not okay with women being raped, prove it. Show us.
Prove it.
Show us. Say this is unacceptable that Pete Hegseth, a man who raped a woman allegedly in 2017. I read the police report. It's pretty compelling. And I just want to be clear, not a liberal woman who was showing too much skin and was asking for it. He raped a rich Republican woman who worked for the Republicans, worked for Republican foundations at a Republican conference in Monterey, California, raped a Republican woman, one of the ones they say are the good ones,
right,
that don't deserve it. At the same time, right, that's in 2017, he says he didn't do it, that she raped him, but he paid her off and forced her to sign an NDA. If someone raped you, do you pay them off and force them to sign an NDA? You can answer that for yourself. At the same time, in 2017, 2018, is having an affair on his second wife with a Fox News producer on Fox and Friends, who he impregnates. Same time, he's raping women, paying them off, allegedly raping, paying them off, is impregnating a Fox News producer while he's married to his second wife. This is all, you can read all about this. His mom sends an email and says, hey, you are, basically implies he's an S-predator who's abusing women. Get some help. I'm sorry I have to say this as your mother. Now, you can look this up. It's in today's outline in the live sources section. The New York Times reported on this email that she's saying, my son is basically an abuser of women. If you don't support it, do something about it.
In Indiana, you might have heard this story. I'll get you in 1 second, Tootle, but this Republican who won a county seat pleads guilty to sexually assaulting his daughter. You heard this story? John Jessup, days after winning an elected official, a Republican politician in Indiana pled guilty to trying to assault his own daughter while in Vegas and now must resign. His voters knew of this, and 15,000 people voted him into his county seat. But it's about the kids. His own daughter.
They care about women
daughter.
and children.
Right. Tootle, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, well, I was good until I heard that.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, John Jessup, the commissioner of Hancock, Indiana, was charged in Nevada in June in connection with a sexual assault that occurred in January. He remained in office as a county commissioner, ran for a seat on the Hancock Council, again, after the news was public, a distinct elected body in the state, and emerged as one of three victors after collecting 15,000 votes. Records show he pled guilty in Nevada on 13 November to attempted assault, which is a kind of felony. Indiana prohibits convicted felons from serving. It was his own daughter.
I'm not surprised at all, really. I mean, it tracks with their whole, we're going to use SA to control women, and we're going to vote for that in every chance we get. It's part of nationalism. It's part of the fascism. It's Team R.
Exactly.
Sucks.
It's Team R. It's never been about protecting children. It's not about being pro-life. You don't give a shit about that baby after it's born. I've read that amazing poem that Pro-Life Voice is about. It's not. It's about it. It's about the it. It's about the fetus. It's about the rallying cry.
Can I just read another one? This is 5 days ago, right? Youth pastor. This is West Virginia. Looking at you, Red State. Youth pastor charged with nearly 200 sex crimes going back decades. Many of the victims were the West Virginia pastor's relatives. The police said, including 5 nieces who filed a complaint against him in 2004, but they were women, so no one believed them. Think 20 years have gone by. He's continued to victimize more women. This is a West Virginia preacher, a Republican, who's in 2004, his nieces said, this man is sexually assaulting people. But the police there didn't believe them. So he had 20 more years to SA people.
But it's the trans community. Yeah, the affidavit did not.
You got to worry about the trans community, exactly.
In this Jessup case, the affidavit did not identify the woman, but an article reported by the Daily Reporter wrote that Jessup was charged with assaulting his youngest daughter, Rachel, on a trip to Las Vegas intended to celebrate her 21st birthday. So, MAGA, if you don't want to be aligned with people like that, if you don't like to be told that you are a predator, then stop voting for predators. His own daughter, 21 years old, took her to Vegas. That's his youngest. We don't even know. Who knows? Who knows if this was the first time or the last time?
2004, this pastor's nieces, a Republican from West Virginia, Mr. Ratcliffe had forced the girls to perform S-acts on him from 1987 to 1996 and SA'd them in other ways until they were about 12.
Exactly.
So I just want to say, from 1987 to 1986, he stopped when they were 12.
Right.
That's too old.
Too old. Yeah.
But Republicans are protecting women in red states. Keep it up.
Protecting the kids.
Let me guess, Felice, did you get that from Antifa operative Bex on Twitter?
No, I got it from the New York Times.
Oh, gotcha. She on Twitter, I don't know if she's on Blue Sky yet or not, but she follows and she will post every one of those stories. And it's like every day. She goes by Antifa operative, but BEKS on Twitter. And every day there's another story about this pastor, this congressperson, this sheriff, this teacher, and they're all GOP, all of them.
Again, more on this story of this Jessup. Multiple witnesses allegedly told authorities that John Jessup got Rachel intoxicated, allegedly, as Jessup repeatedly said the slogan, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." She became so intoxicated she needed a wheelchair to get back to her hotel room. There, she recalled showering while clothed, and her next recollection was waking up naked as Jessup was assaulting her. Her father.
Meanwhile, they're still going on about Biden and Ashley.
Yeah, and of course that's fake news.
Of course it is. Anyway, I came up because I didn't know, I missed a little bit earlier. I don't know if you had brought up Tim Snyder's latest Substack about the decapitation strike, where he's talking about, of course, we all know Tim Snyder's On Tyranny book, how he studied, all the 20th century authoritarian movements, and in his Substack he was talking about like the 5 fundamental government items that have to be destroyed in order to bring in authoritarianism, and he mentioned health, law, administration, defense, and intelligence. And of course, every nominee for those departments are all to destroy those exact agencies. So it's to bring in the authoritarianism.
It is. That's the plan of Project 2025. I mean, it's outlined there, and then for MAGA to be claiming literally with a straight face that Trump has disavowed it, it's just nonsense. Look at his entire cabinet. Look at the people that are pulling the strings. I mean, it's been funded by the billionaire class. All this research, all this, all the. I mean, JD Vance writing the forward. You got Kevin. I forget his last name. You'll know, Felice. What's his name? Hot
Kevin,
Mike.
the president of
president
of Heritage Foundation, Kevin. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then John,
He's the president of the Heritage
and then Russ Vought caught on the hot mic. These are all people that are affiliated with the program. So to your point, Tootle, these are the people who are
Roberts.
Kevin Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts, exactly. Who are part of the autocratic takeover of our country. These are the people that are now in power. This is why when we say it's different this time, that it's fascist, is because this is what fascist regimes do. They lie to their electorate. They throw chum in the water to say it's somebody else. Let's blame the brown people. Let's blame the Jews. Let's blame women. Let's blame the Jews. Let's
and
blame the poor.
Look for them to. I've been hearing that they're doing a rebrand on Project 2025 because they're still, obviously getting pushback on it that we're not involved with this, or this is all BS. They're just rebranding it. It's just going to be called America First now.
Of course.
So you're going to see,
which of course has racist tendencies.
Oh, totally. So they can continue to say in these debates, so Trump has nothing to do with 2025, Project 2025, and no one from 2025 is on this council because it's not that anymore. It's now America First. And I've seen like just about every Stephen Miller tweet or whatever that usually America First is in there now.
No, what is America First? What that is, just to be clear, that's his foundation, which thousands of nonprofits went into the making of Project 2025. America First Legal is just one nonprofit that helped to author Project 2025. That is the foundation of Stephen Miller.
Yeah, that's his legal.
Yeah, it's not. So
thing.
that's just, he's talking about America First. That's just one of the foundations that authored Project 2025. But I mean, Trump is installing, like Russ Vought is the author of the section about consolidating power in the executive branch. He is now running the Office of Management and Budget.
Right, and Carr at FCC.
Brandon Carr wrote the chapter on taking over the media, and is now running the FCC. So there's no way to divorce yourself from Project 2025. There isn't. I mean, that is the point of the distraction. The point of the Kash Patel, the point of Tulsi Gabbard, the point of Matt Gaetz is to distract why they actually install Christian nationalist authoritarians like Russ Vought. That is the point. You never hear people going after Russ Vought because he's just a Christian nationalist who doesn't think women should vote. Like, I mean, that's the truth. He's the real scary one, and we're all arguing about child trafficking Matt Gaetz.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Russ Vought and Brendan Carr, Pete Hoekstra, the ambassador to Canada, another author of Project 2025. Tom Homan is an author of Project 2025. I could go on and on about all the authors of Project 2025 that have been installed in Trump's cabinet.
It's just going to continue. But by the time these policies start to get implemented and we start to finally notice because of the distraction, it's going to be too late.
Thanks for jumping in today, Toodle. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'll see you guys later.
Somebody said something in the chat, and I just looked it up. They said that Pete Hegseth has pulled his name from the nomination for the Secretary of the Defense. I have not seen that, but a story did pop up that was just released today that apparently, while he was leading a number of veterans groups, he was known to say, "Unalive all Muslims."
Oh no, yeah, he is super. Oh yeah, good luck for all the. I love the PAC, the Muslims for Trump PAC out of Pennsylvania that is now expressing. Oh, it doesn't look like Trump is for the Muslims. Surprise! Yeah, and Trump installed Marco Rubio, a man who's saying, "I'm going to back Netanyahu until he finishes off the Palestinians, and any Palestinians that die, well, blame Hamas." That's Marco Rubio. Pete Hegseth is another one.
You were talking about the letter that his mom wrote, excoriating him as an abuser of women. His sexism likely extends far beyond his mother's purview. The New Yorker late last night released a damning report featuring a whistleblower account of Hegseth's behavior while leading the veterans group Concerned Veterans for America, as well as reporting about his time helming the group Veterans for Freedom. He was forced out of his roles atop both organizations. He allegedly cultivated a culture of sexism at CVA, which he ran from 2013 to 2016. And according to the New Yorker, quote, he and other members of his management team would pursue the organization's female staffers. The report alleges that Hegseth took the CVA team to a Louisiana strip club in 2014, where he was, quote, so drunk he tried to get on stage and dance with the strippers. The same night, a different male staffer alleged that he attempted to assault one of the CVA female staff members who had tried to restrain Hegseth. The female staffer moved to file a complaint with the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, but the New Yorker said that matter was settled with a payment to the staffer and a non-disclosure agreement was signed. The whistleblower noted the staffer was then ostracized by the CVA and had become, quote, hostile and intimidating working environment. But it's the woman. It's the woman's fault that she. Oh,
another woman that Pete Hegseth paid off and forced to sign an NDA. I just want one more thing about Pete Hegseth, just to add to how vile he is. The woman he allegedly raped, who was again not a liberal woman showing too much skin. It was a Republican woman who was working for Republican groups at a Republican conference. She was actually running interference, right? He was drunk. Allegedly, right? This is what the police report says. And there are women who testified to this in the police report that he was inappropriately touching. He wouldn't stop touching women and trying to lure them back to his room. So they went to the woman that he ended up graping and said, hey, there's this creepy guy who won't stop touching us and trying to lure him to his room. And she was trying to run interference for these other Republican women that he was trying to assault. And she took him outside. They had an altercation that other hotel people reported, hearing an argument by the pool. Hotel security reported it, where she was calling him out for his inappropriate behavior with other women. And that's what you get when you try to run interference, right? And then she ended up allegedly being the one that was raped.
Again, Secretary of Defense nominee. Hegseth's drunken behavior was cited multiple times as embarrassing the organization. Another complaint described a stop on the CVA's Defend Freedom tour when Hegseth and someone traveling with the group were in a bar when they started chanting, "Unalive all Muslims, unalive all Muslims," in what the complaint described as a drunk and violent manner. Yeah, that would be the potential Secretary of Defense, where Muslim Americans serve our country proudly and honorably. The distraction is the key. The distraction.
Yeah, but no new wars.
But no new wars.
Trump has put in place a bunch of warmongers who want to unalive all Muslims. Trump, part of his immigration mass deportation plan is to revive the Muslim ban. But no new wars.
But no new wars. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Fine. How are you?
I am learning how to put a dresser together, so this has been fun.
Fun, yeah.
I'm using, look, Republicans, a woman using a toolbox and screws and shit. No, and it's really funny when we talk about Hegseth, because the other part that people seem to forget is him and Trump have already worked on a warrior board. The idea of getting rid of, in Agenda 47, it states the woke left-wing Democrats, they just want loyalists in our military, and they don't actually understand how detrimental this is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these Republicans seem to forget that you have the right to deny a unlawful order. I want people to be aware of that. And it's really funny to me because we're talking about Hegseth, and then I heard you guys briefly talk about Patel. And the other person who I think is a little concerning is Bondi, Pam Bondi. Oh, yeah. She's easily bought. It's just altogether, his junk drawer is just getting worse and worse, legitimately, as we talk about. So it's just, Hegseth is a terrible idea for it, the way he likes to portray his own service and stuff. And the person who they put in for head of Navy, the Department of the Navy, I forget his name, has no background.
It's John Felon.
It's
yeah, Felice talked about him earlier. John Felon.
I can't anymore. I want to wake up to 2011 where everything makes sense, and I don't have to play what crime did this cabinet member do, or who's next. You know, I feel like I'm playing like a weird game of Guess Who.
Yeah.
Sense. So.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think what you're referring to, we've talked about this before, but part of the Republican National Committee's platform that's worked its way into Project 2025 and also to Agenda 47 is Chapter 10, Return to Peace Through Strength, under modernizing the military. Republicans will ensure our military is the most modern, lethal, and powerful force in the world. We will invest in cutting-edge research and advanced technologies, including an Iron Dome missile defense shield, support our troops with higher pay, and get woke left-wing Democrats fired as soon as possible. So apparently, if you are a Democrat or you're woke, meaning that you respect and are aware of social and racial and societal injustice, that's not good enough to serve your country.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how they're sitting here. They're like, yeah, this makes sense. And Felice, I've been running around saying he hasn't publicly endorsed Project 2025, but he has endorsed 25, 110%. It's not what you see. But I'll drop. I love you guys equally. Thanks, I love seeing you guys all the time. So I will see you guys around.
Bye. Well, echo.
I know one more thing about Pete Hegseth that I don't hear people mentioning, like, and needs to be mentioned, is that Pete Hegseth was not allowed to serve in the National Guard at Biden's inauguration because he was suspected of being a Christian nationalist J6 sympathizer. There are videos of him on Fox and Friends the morning of J6 cheering on an insurrection. And he was identified by the FBI as someone who cannot be trusted to serve in the military because he was a suspected radical, Christian nationalist radical. And this is one of the things I was looking at clips today, like for my show, The People's Receipts, where I basically just show clips and talk about the receipts. And there are clips of him on a podcast with it that I guess he does with like his third or fourth wife. I'm not sure which wife we are on at this point. It's third or fourth. He is doing a podcast with his wife just recently where he says that J6ers are the best soldiers because they're really dedicated.
Yeah, and his tattoos, he's tried to defend them. There's Yahtzee references, there's Christian nationalist references. Again, the distraction is the key. The argument being made by MAGA now is that it's just the media going after these people because Pete Hegseth has been lying to them through Fox News and various other outlets over the years, and they've come to trust this guy. So, of course, why wouldn't I want him to be the Secretary of Defense? And this is what's happened when you're not paying attention. This is exactly what's happening. This is why it's really, really important for us to be having these conversations. Now, I know that there's been MAGA chirping in the chat, but they've left. I think they're pulling into they're circling the wagons because I think
the cognitive dissonance, their brains they can't hear this. They can't receive it.
Exactly.
They can't stay around too much. They could talk and then they have to go because God forbid they retain any truth.
Can we, if we go to, I want to go to your outline. Can we talk a little bit about the global international impact on some tariffs? Because I think that's a really important piece that people don't really understand, especially when it comes to treaties. So and I talked about this briefly earlier, one of the things that scared me the most when I first read through Project 2025 was the consolidation of power under the executive branch, but three particular agencies in particular that really kind of got my attention. The FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, of course, which controls messaging, right? Again, the media, right? The woke media, the fake news, right? The FEC, which is the Federal Elections Commission, right? The governing body that makes sure our elections are free and fair. And the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission, which is the organization responsible for tariffs. Treaties. So to make sure the countries that we sign treaties with are following the rules of the treaty. And there's some interesting things about the international economic implications of the Trump tariff. Would you mind unpacking that a little bit? Because I think we don't talk about that enough, because it's not how it affects us domestically is bad enough, but how it impacts the tariffs that we've signed with our global trading partners, because the future of those relationships is on the line if we're going to continue to violate terms of treaties that we have signed, especially when it relates to tariffs. You follow me?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the best example is what we talked about. Trump is known, right? He's a businessman that is all talk, who breaks deals. Like, he is a deal breaker. And the USMCA is the perfect example, right? Which was formerly NAFTA, right? Which was a treaty. This is a treaty about trading that
Right.
he is now breaking, which he wanted to rename it and amend it so he could take credit for the USMCA. NAFTA is now the USMCA, Trump's baby. He's breaking a trade agreement, right? In order to allegedly charge 25% tariffs, which will just cause retaliation tariffs, which in the case of Mexico, we talked about earlier, will bury American corporations. Stellantis, which he has a GM, Volkswagen. Is Harley Davidson in Mexico now? I think they might
they are.
be in Mexico.
Yeah.
John Deere is one. I mean, there's no end to it. And that's the truth. We are hurting ourselves twice, right?
Yeah, and it's bigger than that, though, because it's about the future. So why would countries who we'd like to be able to rely on for global trading partners, not just that, but intelligence through NATO countries, why would any of them ever agree to work with the U.S. again? Why would any country want to share intelligence with us? Think about the Five Eyes. Think about documents that were found in Mar-a-Lago during the execution of a search warrant. Five Eyes document.
Nuclear submarine secrets with an Australian billionaire. Yeah, imagine
Exactly.
being Australia and thinking, how are we supposed to work with this guy?
Exactly. How are we ever going to be able to share intelligence? And don't forget, intelligence goes both ways. The Five Eyes and other global intelligence agencies also help us by saying, hey, we uncovered this plot. There was recently a discovery of a plot that was identified by a foreign intelligence agency that helped the FBI identify threats within the U.S. That's where these things matter. This is part of the distraction, not realizing that. So this goes back to post-World War I.
The plot on Trump.
Exactly.
Iran.
Exactly.
Right? And then Trump, those are valid threats, right? If it's Trump, then all of a sudden other foreign intelligence is valuable to him.
Of course.
But when they're reporting on Trump weakening our democracy, including with Russia, then that's all lies.
Of course. So like Woodrow Wilson, Herbert Hoover, the mindset of isolationism coming off World War I, post-Depression, right? So that was the America First model. So we're going to keep things close. We don't need to know. We don't need to be nosy in the rest of the world. That led to the rise of the Reich. That's what happened because the Western allies, U.S. in particular, the Brits didn't, Europe didn't. They knew what was happening. But we were like, we don't, what we see, we know nothing, we see nothing. That led to the rise of the Reich because there was the Treaty of Versailles during the 1930s when Schmittler was able to sell economic reform to the German citizens in violation of just about every element of the Versailles Treaty. That's what happened. That's why these things are so critical. That's why we have just the intelligence that we get from NATO alone is worth the relationship that we have with NATO. This is the kind of stuff that because MAGA, you've sold your country out. You literally have sold your country out. We are now under the dictator's thumb even more so than before. Donald Trump is a paid Russian asset. I have no doubt in my mind. And he's paid by other countries as well. And this is what's happened. This is the distraction. This is the deep state. This is what's happening right in front of us.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they have George Soros pegged. That's the deep state.
Exactly.
It's billionaires. And know this about the rise of the Reich, too. I think it's worth noting that he was backed by the donor class, by billionaires around the world, billionaires lurking in England, billionaires lurking all over Europe, billionaires in America.
Right.
Henry Ford, let me just say, if you don't know, Hitler had a photo behind his desk of Henry Ford. Yep. He was the only American to get an actual shout out in Mein Kampf, right? Hitler came to America to tour our concentration camps, and how we were working on mass deportations and what we were doing to indigenous communities.
He loved our Jim Crow laws.
What we were doing to indigenous communities, how we were suppressing the black community. He found it all fabulous, as did Henry Ford. And Hitler came here to America to learn how we were doing that, how we were socially engineering people out of existence, right? Hitler he got ahead of himself, and time was of the essence. So he started, putting people in ovens. Sorry, that sounds horrible, but I mean, that's what happened. But how America does it is slowly over time. We socially engineer minority groups out of existence. That was the plan for Palestinians, but it had to be sped up, right? Like, I mean, if you want to see one of our greatest sins is what has happened to Palestine, as us, saying, hey, because of our anti-Semitism here, it's the same thing that happened with our racism in Liberia. Hey, Jews, we had a thought. You guys just go back where you came from, right? And we're going to take a bunch of land that's not ours in this weird social engineering experiment. We're going to slowly socially engineer both Muslims and Jews, indigenous Muslims and Jews, out of existence. And we'll just give you guys this patch of land that we'll call Israel. That's your birthright in the Bible. Praise the Lord.
There's a great story. Cool. There's a great article that I read from History Channel, talked about it. Rolling Stone reported on it. The title of the article tells you all you need to know: How the Yahtzees Were Inspired by U.S. Jim Crow Laws.
Amen. I could go on and you believe me, I have a history degree. I could go on and on. Please know that in real time, we inspired Hitler. What we have done, our socially engineering minority groups out of existence. This is what we do. We other groups, we exploit them for labor. We identify others in society. That is fascism. Right? We marginalize women. That is fascism. We are hyper nationalistic. Nationalism is the narcissism of many, right? That's the best definition I've ever heard from it, right? It is toxic. It spreads, it multiplies, right? And that is what Hitler saw and modeled his operation after.
Yeah, we talk about how Trump has similar rhetoric. Again, the distraction, right? Using immigrants as the scapegoat. Meanwhile, the oligarch class is taking over. So there was a famous audio clip of him recently talking about just one day, like a 1 day purge, which we can compare to the night of broken glass in Germany. How there was an assimilation of the Jewish community into the German culture, and he tried to convince the German people that the Jews were the problem. That didn't land well. So then he focused on economic reform. Meanwhile, all along with Joseph Goebbels, I've talked about this a few times, Joseph Goebbels and the propaganda machine behind it the plan was to always go after the Jews. And in this case, we see Christian nationalism and white nationalism in America, the preservation of whiteness. Again, if you don't like to be compared to historical examples, then maybe don't act like history. Don't act like it was like it's 1930s Germany again. If you don't like that comparison, then maybe step away from it and say, yeah, that seems too similar. It's not a coincidence. The only book he may have ever read, if he even read it, was Mein Kampf. It was next to his bed at night. He's talked about how people in his cabinet have said, well, not everything that Schmittler did was so bad. I mean, he references he wants his generals to behave like Schmittler's generals. Like, when are you ever going to learn? You are the deep state. This is what you want. You want to harm people. You want to harm people who look like Felice. She checks many boxes. You want to harm the poor. You want to harm woke Democrats who serve in our military, who've decided that they're going to put their hand up and defend our Constitution, but you don't seem to care about that. Everyone is under threat. The poor in our country, people who receive benefits, welfare benefits, who need it, people who pay into the system, yet you don't care. You either don't care or you don't understand, or what's worse, you might understand and you still don't care. This is what you voted for.
I mean, I do think there's people with a certain amount, maybe upper middle class and higher, close to the 1%, who have enough upward mobility that believe, I just don't want to pay taxes, right? Like maybe
True.
they do understand. Maybe they have been afforded an education to understand and are voting from a more selfish place of, well,
Yeah, but
I'm
they
in a
don't
high
care.
enough tax bracket. Yeah,
Yep.
they don't care. I'm just validating. I agree with what you're saying. I think there are people that are just like, this is what's best for me personally. But even if you are one of those people, what's important to understand is you are still being robbed by
Exactly.
the donor class.
Exactly.
And like you want to believe you're not, right? Because you're enough. You got 3 car garage and you have cars and you're like, but not me. No, still you. Still you are being robbed by the donor class. Still you are producing a surplus and handing it off to your donor class, to billionaire overlords. Still you. Still,
Exactly.
we are all in the same boat until we wake up and move towards some sort of regulation of oligarchical capitalism and equality. Like that's the reality.
And
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I don't want to bring Marxism into this, but since MAGA has no idea what communism or Marxism is, I just want to the French Revolution happened, right? Because there was inequality, kings and queens, right? And then there were serfs who were tied to the land, who had to work the land, hand all the surplus profits to the kings and queens. And that's what the French Revolution was people saying, no more, right? There's the rise of the bourgeoisie, the middle class, and the bourgeoisie and the middle class, and no more, we want our own opportunities and upward mobility. But what happened, and the only thing Marx was saying, right? Marx was a philosopher who supported the average worker, just like we all are in America. He supported middle-class white men. He was a middle-class white male. He was from Germany who supported other middle-class white workers who were being disenfranchised. And he said, hey, I loved the French Revolution. I loved the ideals, égalité, liberté, right?
Liberté.
Like freedom, equality, equity. He's like, hey, but I'm a philosopher. I'm really great at math, and I'm looking around, and the dream of the French Revolution never panned out. And those kings and queens, they just go by another name now. It's the capitalists. It's the donor class. They never went away. They never gave up their money. They never gave up their power. They just morphed into other people. They just morphed into the billionaires, the donor class, right? And he's like, I'm seeing in capitalism, the gap is still widening. And all Marx was saying was, hey, we need to bring more equality, more equity into capitalism through regulation. That's all he was ever saying, is I want equity for workers in capitalism. And somehow, because billionaires are very smart, they have demonized the word Marxism. All Marx ever did was defend the average worker, the average white, right? He was he was a white man who defended white male workers and women, actually. He did talk about how women's labor is not valued. I'll give Marx that. But he was a white man defending white male workers and said, there's a bunch of inequality and I want to fix it.
Hi, Alicia. Thank you for your patience. What's on your mind? Oh, she left. There's Reeb. We'll go for a little. We'll see if we can go to noon, depending on where this conversations go. Hey, Reeb, how are you?
I'm well. How are you guys today?
Good, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, in the world of theories and the deep state and all that, it's like, this. What I'm seeing, P25 has been just chipping away. Slowly but surely, especially over the last 4 years, me as a woman feeling it most when Roe v. Wade was overturned. But it's like if you look at like how it's becoming impossible to live in this country. I mean, the cost of housing has gone up, where corporations are now controlling a lot of our rent, the cost of food. We know that they've been conspiring to keep the cost of that up. I just threw this one in here, the cost of transportation, vehicles, you can't just go buy a car for $5,000 nowadays. They're threatening to deport, jail just about everyone for everything, from you know what I mean by that, like women having miscarriages. Oop, now you're in jail. You can't afford to take care of your children that we force you to have. Oop, now you have to go to jail. So, the homeless populations, putting them in camps. And then, they want to fire woke everyone, anybody that, has an education. So it's like they're dismantling the workforce. And I bring this up because here in upstate New York, we have these little towns that they're called hamlets. And when you drive through them, they're kind of a blink in the eye. But when you find out the story about these little towns, it's like, a little company came in there, and then that's the owner of the big house. They lived there. And then the VP lived in that nicer house. You see these row houses, and then you'll see like a huge, what used to be a boarding house. And all of those workers that worked at that seed factory had to work and live there. They had to get all of their supplies from the general store that was owned by the company. And it's like, Felice, you said you had a history, a degree in history. I mean, in this area, that was a lot of the Irish immigrants coming over and just needing a job and taking what they could. And then they were owned by the people that had the money. And that's what it's like. I'm here just observing and connecting the dots and kind of seeing, us heading straight towards something along that lines. What do you guys think?
Building towns around industry.
You're connecting them beautifully, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you see that in a lot of coastal towns, like in New England. You'll see, you look at a hillscape that starts at the shoreline, and you have these smaller houses that the workers would work, and then you'd work your way all the way up to the top of the hill, and that's where the captains would. There's widows' watches on the top of these houses, these old colonial houses. So that's not uncommon. It's always been part of our system. That's exactly the point, right? Somebody mentioned this in the comments. Tesla's been doing that. They literally want to create these hubs around with the expectation that their employees will live there. It's like forcing labor. It's crazy.
No, it's like when I say you choose a corporation and you sell your body and your life energy to it, and for the right to have health care, the right to survive. That's what I mean. And you're describing history well with Irish immigrants. Irish immigrants, it's a form of indentured servitude. Hey, we're not going to pay you money, but you can use these fake dollars in the company store, right? Yeah. If you stop working, you can't get food, right? Yeah, if you stop working, you don't get corporate housing. If you stop working, your children can't go to school. Your children are going to be directly punished, right? It's indentured servitude. And yeah, that's been going on in America. And Elon Musk is famous for this. If you look Elon Musk doesn't go after American citizen engineers who are highly sought after, and coders who are highly sought after, that are citizens. He brings them over on these very tenuous work visas, so they're indebted to his company to keep working. They're only in America because of that work visa. He grossly underpays them compared to American citizen engineers, right? They don't have the same 80-20 time as other engineers, and he owns them.
Correct.
They're indentured servants.
As a person,
this is a guy who's talking about mass deportation, who's exploiting immigration.
Exactly.
And immigrant labor.
As somebody who went out, I went out on my own from corporate America after a long run in corporate America 3 years ago now, and I'm contemplating having to go back to work in corporate America again because of health insurance. So I'm now worried about the ACA and because that's what I use, and my kids are on my insurance. So I feel like I have to be a slave to the system again just to get insurance. And I'm struggling with it every single day. It's like stressing me out. I'm a privileged white man in society. I don't need anybody's sympathy. I get it. I'm at the pinnacle of power. I get that. I'm working on using my privilege in different ways. But this is a real life for so many people. You talk about this all the time, Felice. But we are slaves to capitalism, and what MAGA voted for is more of the same on steroids. It's literally giving the keys to the entire systems to billionaires. It's not that they haven't had influence before, because they have. But now when you have an administration loaded with people who will take advantage of the systems that they're there to create, then that leaves the rest of us fighting over ourselves, punching down.
I think Upstate, I'm going to follow you because I thought you said it really well. Like, you listed a bunch of things, and I just want to say what you listed were social engineering tactics, right?
Yeah.
They are socially engineering the bottom part of society, which tend to be brown and black people. tend to be people with mental health issues, tend to be the trans community, tend to be the LGBTQI, lesbians, gays, disabled folks. They are socially engineering people out of existence. You listed a bunch of social engineering plans, right? Do they want brown and black? Think about it. They just reported in Texas they're not going to investigate maternal mortality deaths. There's been a sharp increase. It was reported on in June 2024 in maternal mortality deaths in Texas. They are disproportionately black and brown women of lower socioeconomic status. We are watching black and brown women be socially engineered out of existence and them say, we're not going to look into this. We're not going to report on it. That's social engineering. Welcome to America. Schindler loved it. He was fascinated by it.
Thanks, Reed, for jumping in. Sorry.
Well, you're welcome, of course. But Felice, another point that I had written down here was, you guys were talking earlier about women and giving birth. And I'll tell you what, I have a 26-year-old. She's my oldest. And that child would have all of the babies, all of them, for all of the United States of America, if she was just given the social structures to do it. She wants a baby so bad. She's not in a relationship, but if she could have, paid maternity leave, if she could get, housing subsidies or, food to help, just all of the stuff that just seems so obvious.
But why would they want that? Think about it. Gentrification is social engineering. Stopping housing subsidies, stopping projects, low income housing, the gentrification of cities. That is social engineering.
Yeah. Yep. But it's
Thank you, Reed. I appreciate you very much.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Someone said, shouldn't we make plans and fight? People are making plans and fighting, right?
Yeah.
There are non-governmental organizations, attorney generals, Congress, Democrats in Congress who have been planning for this and writing up lawsuits. We're going to fight this in the courts. I am not a lawyer, but I'm fascinated by the law, right? You will catch me reading every court document. Because the courts are the last place the truth may matter. And that depends on, I don't know how many federal judges Trump is going to stack the courts with, but Biden has stacked the courts with many federal judges. And all we can do is fight in the courts. It's the last place any part of the truth actually matters. So don't think that no one's been seeing this coming, right?
Yeah, sadly, there's something we might expect. We might expect resignation from Alito and Thomas. I would expect that to happen during
100% for sure. That's why I say the Fifth Circuit, right?
Yep.
Whenever something gets struck down somewhere, it ends up in Texas, like Judge Kaczmarek, right? They judge shop in Texas. It ends up at the Fifth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals, and those are a bunch of Trump-appointed judges interviewing for the Supreme Court, right? That's what they're doing. Oh my God, I have something so important to tell you guys, and I should have said this earlier.
Go for it.
Today, it's happening right now. The answer might be out. You guys in the chat can research this after I tell you about it. The Supreme Court is hearing a very important case, and we will know today. Is the Supreme Court going to carry water for Donald Trump? Or oral arguments are happening in a very important case about vaping.
Oh, that's right.
Now, Donald Trump sold off his Republican policy platform to industries. Vaping is one of them. Donald Trump said, I'm going to be the savior of the vaping industry. What does he mean by that? He means that the vaping industry, and you can watch documentaries on it. There's a documentary, I believe, on Netflix about Juul, right? What the vaping industry did was they made vapes. They said, we are actually going to help people quit smoking, right? Vaping is safer than smoking. And we actually are a technology company. This company was born at Stanford. So they registered as a tech company and they've avoided FDA regulation for a long time. Now you may remember we had almost eradicated smoking in America, especially in teens, through clever advertising, right? That's some of the good stuff that advertising can do. We had almost eradicated smoking. And then came the Juul and the flavored bubblegum, cherry, strawberry flavored Juul pods. And we said, hey, you're not going to re-addict children to tobacco. This is not happening. Get rid of the flavored pods. Well, now, exactly what I said happened. They found a judge in Texas. to bubble it up to the Fifth Circuit. All these judges are auditioning to be the next Clarence Thomas and the next Alito. And they said, nope, the vaping industry's right. You should be able to market to children. That's fine. The Supreme Court is hearing that today. Yeah. Imagine, it's still Biden's Solicitor General. It's Preligar. It's not Trump's Solicitor Generals yet. So Preligar is arguing with the conservative Supreme Court, who have the majority, right? But Amy Coney Barrett is that wedge sometimes, right?
Sometimes.
Do they have any ethics left? Will they allow vaping companies to market flavored pods to children like strawberry bubblegum surprise? Is there any ethics left, or does capitalism win? Does paying Donald Trump off, does capitalism win? Those oral arguments are happening now. And I think it's going to be very indicative of, is this Supreme Court, if you'll do it to children, right? Republicans love the kids. They're saving the kids.
Protect those kids, right?
Protect the kids. Protect the kids. Not when there's billions to be earned from addicting them to vaping, though. So we shall see. That's happening this morning.
And this is the sad part about it. Like you said earlier, there are Republicans who are at the top of the pinnacle, the one percenters who vote for preservation of their wealth, right? And we know that there's the assimilation to wealth that we see a lot of members of the BIPOC community voting for Republican politics, finally acquiring generational wealth, not wanting to lose it. But in a situation like this, where could we all agree that the ability to market for tobacco manufacturers and for vape manufacturers to be able to market to children, could not we all agree as a society that's a harmful thing? And yet there'll be people on this platform who will defend it because it's a Republican policy. It's crazy. That's how lost we are. That's crazy, but I think it's probably
think about it. When Michelle Obama said they're poisoning us with the food, right?
Yeah.
Like the UK has food regulations. We are basically eating dog food in compared to what's going on in Europe, right? Michelle Obama said it. They're trying to take our salt away. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Fox News.
Rats.
RFK says they're poisoning our food. All of a sudden, they're like, they're poisoning our food?
Yeah, raw milk. Good luck with that.
What's happening?
As measles comes back. Yeah, good luck with all that.
But if Michelle Obama said it, we can eat poison if we want to eat poison.
True.
Like you said, they vote along party lines. If I want to be poisoned, let me be poisoned. If
My
kids
choice to be poisoned.
If children choose to be poisoned by flavored bubblegum jewel pods, let them be poisoned.
Yeah, but police children aren't old enough to make decisions for themselves in their own bodies.
Oh, I agree. They care about the kids. I mean, we'll see. Do they care about the kids? Can I just say, Lisa, thank you so much for the Cash App and for fighting the good fight and teaching. Thank you. That makes me want to cry. I appreciate it, Lisa.
From John and from Kathy, thank you guys very, very much. John says, nice having Felice by your side. Thank you. I agree. I appreciate that. Why don't we use that love to wrap today? So how would you like to close out today, Felice? Anything you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to promote later today for yourself, or anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, yeah. I just want to say, I do think we are fighting. Like what we are doing now is fighting, having these conversations. You, by sitting here and listening and learning and being able to repeat this stuff, right? We are fighting. This is the fight. Education. Like I used to be a teacher. I'm very passionate about education. Knowledge is power. Like being informed. Why am I always reading so much? Why do I have all this stuff in my head? Because it makes me powerful, right? Mm-hmm. And there are tons of non-governmental groups, non-profits, places like Midas Touch Network and things like we're doing who are fighting, right? Donald Trump's not going to hold himself accountable. So a bunch of us are going to have to, right? We have to raise the alarm publicly and say, look what this guy is doing. No offense, but we're smarter. So that's all we have to do. We have to highlight. I think we have a better job than the opposite. It's harder to be in power. Look how hard it was. Biden saved our country from a pandemic and we couldn't convince people that happened. Poking the holes in the absolute BS that is going to be this Trump administration is the easier job. We have to raise the alarm. We have to stay educated. And I think we are making a difference, like knowledge is power. Never forget that.
I appreciate you saying that.
I'll be live later.
What time?
In a couple hours, 12, I'm trying to think, 11:30 Pacific is that 2:30 or 2:30 Eastern? Yeah, 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern. The People's Receipts. Yeah. So I'll be live later. Come watch. I appreciate it. And then tomorrow I have the broadcast, which we're taking back the word broad, with Dr. Danny, who specializes in women's issues, and Mandy, if you don't know Potty Mouth Pollyanna, she's great. And we talk about specifically how conservative policies, like in Texas, are hurting women. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, come to that. That starts at 10 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays.
Time is hard. Thank you for being here today, friend. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for everybody for joining today. We're going to rate our friend Daniela, who is the knitting cult lady. You guys know Daniela. She's awesome. And, talk about powerful women with powerful voices. I'm honored to have Felice by my side today as co-host, and Daniela as well, pushing back against the patriarchy. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, friends. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Stared at a tube with a barrel, bourbon all over my breath.
Oh, Chubb, much appreciate for that follow. How is everybody doing this morning? And if you are in here and you've not hit the follow button, that'd be appreciated. And also, if you feel like touching that little funny looking shape that's a heart, smack it a couple times.